Am I wrong for telling my girlfriend to rein in her daddy issues while we're visiting my family? Throwaway because my cousins know my actual account. My girlfriend, Shay, female 27, and I, male 26, are on a small vacation to my hometown. She's only ever met my dad and extended family, aunt, uncle and cousins, over the phone, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to introduce everyone properly. But since we've arrived, Shay's behaviour towards my dad has been seriously off-putting. For example, I thought it would be fun if we all went horseback riding. My younger cousins do it as a hobby, so I thought it would be nice to do an activity we'd all like. But Shay wouldn't even get on the horse because she said she was scared. It's been years since I've been on a horse, but they were so calm and honestly not a problem at all. I offered to stay with her while the others enjoyed themselves, but she insisted I go because my dad already offered to stay behind. He doesn't usually go horseback riding either. It was weird that she didn't want me there too, but I let it be. There have been other instances too, like how she asked my dad to show her around town, instead of staying with me and meeting my old friend from high school. It was an impromptu meetup. We literally ran into him while we were looking for somewhere to get lunch with my dad, but it would have been nice if she made the effort to get to know him instead of going with my dad. The final straw was when we were all at my aunt's house for dinner. Shay made cupcakes. Baking is kind of her thing, and she made some chocolate and peanut butter ones specifically because they're my dad's favourite. She made a few different types of cupcakes, but none of the others were my other relatives' favourite flavours. When we got back to our Airbnb, I confronted her. I know Shay's dad left when she was a teen and they're no contact, so I figured she might be clinging to my dad because it's nice to have a fatherly presence and not something she's used to. I asked her, jokingly, to rein in her daddy issues and stop being so clingy with my dad. She blew up at me, telling me that she's trying her best to fit in and that I've put no effort in making her feel welcome. Neither of us were willing to compromise, and I ended up sleeping somewhere else for the night. I need to talk things out with her today, but before I do, I want to make sure I'm not in the wrong. Ooh, I got a funny feeling the comments are gonna say he is, so let's have a look. This should be titled, I was a jerk to my girlfriend who was being kind and normal to my family. You need to stop watching incest porn. Your girlfriend's behaviour is normal. Your reaction is not normal. You're the a-hole. Sorry, bud, I think you're the one with the daddy issues. I don't see anything sexual about the way she was acting towards your dad based on what you described. So you're mad because your girlfriend was too nice to your dad and was trying too hard to fit in to be friendly? Makes absolutely no sense. My God, you suck. Every day I'm reminded how great my man is because douchebags like you exist and some poor girl is dating them. I hope she dumps you and finds someone who will appreciate the effort she puts into their family and doesn't stab her where it hurts when he feels threatened. You're far too immature for a relationship. I had to double check your age to make sure it didn't say 16. Worst boyfriend ever. You're not wrong, dude. She's totally gonna steal your dad from you. Before you know it, they'll be fishing, he'll teach her how to drive, go to all her baseball games, and you'll be left at home with your mitt and warm glass of Kool-Aid wondering what happened. You need to break up with her now before he starts lecturing her about World War II and how the Russian front was crucial in depleting Axis resources towards the end of the war. If that happens, you're too late. Haha, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, they didn't hold back here. Let's go to an update the next day. Okay, I get it. I'm wrong. Even though a lot of you were really harsh in the comments of my last post, I appreciate the honesty and I think I needed it. I read every comment and I understand it was wrong of me to joke about a potentially triggering topic around my girlfriend. Me joking about it was a jerk thing to do, and any concerns I had I should have said in a much better way. I went back to the Airbnb today, and you'll never guess who was there with my girlfriend. Yes, it was my father. He was in the kitchen cleaning up what looked like leftovers from breakfast. He said he stopped by a cafe, that's at the end of the street, and bought us breakfast, but I wasn't there when he arrived. By that point, Shay told him everything about our argument, and he wasn't happy. Where was Shay when I arrived back? My dad said she was in the shower, getting ready, and that they were going to go to my aunt's house looking for me. They both presumed that's where I was, considering I wasn't at the Airbnb, nor was I with my dad. We talked and I helped him clean up their breakfast. While I did, I saw the receipt in the to-go bag. Considering the cafe he bought the breakfast in is literally 5 to 10 minutes away and he came straight from there to the Airbnb, it's safe to assume he spent at least 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours at the Airbnb before I arrived. But sure, that's normal. I didn't bring this up or even question it. I've learned my lesson about bringing up stupid and immature concerns. My dad reiterated a lot of the things people said on my post, like how Shay didn't want me to miss out on the horseback riding, that she wanted to give me time with my friend without being the third wheel, and he said that his favourite cupcake flavour came up while they were walking around town together. It was an embarrassing conversation, and while we didn't discuss everything I wanted, it's a start. When my dad left, I spoke to Shay and apologised. She was really quiet, and when we talked about it further, she was crying a lot. The only thing she really said is that we have underlying issues from before this vacation, and that this whole ordeal just adds to it. We were supposed to go to a games night at my aunt's tonight, but Shay said she isn't going, and that she wants some time to think. I respect that. I don't know if Shay wants me to stay at the Airbnb tonight or not, but I'm glad she didn't immediately break up with me like some of you suggested. Now for a couple more comments. You saw the receipt. Was it food for 2 or for 3? Opie says, food for 3, but they didn't even bother saving the food they got for me. Did you tell her where you slept last night? Yeah, I mentioned that I stayed at my friend's house for the night. She didn't mind. Where were you for 2 hours this morning? Still at my friend's house. I woke up later than normal because I was stressing over this the night before. One commenter says, my dude, I sought out your one comment on your update because I want to make sure you see this. Your whole story reads like you either have self-confidence issues or you've had the wool over your eyes before, presumably not involving your dad. What you are creating here is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're looking for a problem that isn't there and potentially creating the catalyst to make it or something like it actually happen. For whatever reason, you don't trust your girlfriend here, and if there are underlying issues from before this trip, I get the feeling you might not have trusted her ever. She's in this relationship for a reason, dude, and the reason is not your dad. Look past your insecurities and discover what you've got here before it's too late. Opie replies, I don't have any self-confidence issues, but I'll take what you've said and really think about it. I didn't think there were any issues between me and my girlfriend before this trip. She's been nothing but supportive of me, and I've always imagined a future with her. Opie then makes one last edit. We broke up. She's staying at a hotel tonight, and then leaving tomorrow. Okay, folks, and that's that. Yeah, as much as Opie tries to deny it, I think there definitely are underlying issues here. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Either way, let's go to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a deleted account, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not wanting to be around my partner's brother anymore? We're all male. My partner and I are gay. His younger brother is straight. They are very close, and his brother spends a lot of time at our house, or we at his. We've been together for 8 years, but I've known them for longer. I always got along with his brother, but for some time he's been acting weird. At first I didn't really notice anything. A little over a year ago he started touching me more. Nothing inappropriate, but almost every time he's close to me. If I'm walking by, he'd pull me to his side, or he'd start playing with my hair. Lately he also started pulling me into his lap, or coming up behind me and putting his arms around me. He also sometimes makes comments about how I look. I know that none of this is really a big deal or anything that could be called inappropriate, but sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. I brought it up to my partner, but he said he didn't notice anything and that I could just be overreacting. I thought he could be right because I'm close to finishing uni, so I'm more stressed than usual. I'd brushed it off, until 2 days ago. My laptop broke down while I was trying to finish an important paper, and my partner had his at work with him. I asked his brother if I could borrow his laptop, and he came by to drop it off. I finished the paper yesterday evening and downloaded it. I somehow messed up and accidentally put it in some random folder. I had titled it, my name, and title of paper, so I typed my name in the search bar. My paper did show up, but there was also another folder with my name on it. I know this will probably make me the jerk to a lot of people, but I was curious, so I opened it. It was filled of pictures. Most of them were pictures we took over the years with me and other people in it, but a few of them made me feel sick. Most of the pictures were harmless, but between the normal pictures, there would be some of me sleeping or changing. Some were just me playing with my dog, but taken from a strange angle that made it seem like someone was trying to take a picture without being noticed. I had to stop looking because my hands started shaking and I felt like I couldn't breathe. My partner came home shortly after and I showed him what I found. I told him I don't want his brother around me anymore. I won't keep them from seeing each other, but I didn't want to be there for it. He looked at me like I'm insane. He tried to calm me down but wouldn't listen to what I said. He just kept repeating that I should stop being so childish and that none of what I was saying was a reason for me to not want him around. He said I shouldn't have found those pictures anyway, and that I should know better than to snoop through other people's things. I didn't really know what else to say because he kept talking over me and trying to twist my words. I slept in the guest bedroom and haven't seen him before he went to work. He'll be home soon, and I know he'll expect an apology for how I acted, but I still feel sick thinking about it. Did I really overreact? Okay, on to the comments. Not the a-hole. What a creepy story. Lil bro is a perv and big bro is an enabler. Up to you to figure if you still feel comfortable in that relationship. Snooping is excusable in this case. It was a folder with your own name. This is my dad about this story as he gave you his laptop. Did he forget about the folder or was he hoping for you to find it? Not the a-hole. Little brother is not straight and is creeping on you. If it were just the pictures, I'd have said something similar to someone else's comments. Then since you were already snooping, it would make sense to quickly see if he's got folders with pictures of other family members. But there's playing with your hair, being all touchy-feely, complimenting your looks. No matter what sex and orientation, if I wasn't in a relationship with someone, I wouldn't put my arms around them unless they were offering a hug, and I definitely wouldn't play with their hair. Not the a-hole. The brother is being extremely creepy for photographing you while you sleep and change, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, and the fact that your partner is defending him is frickin' vile. Dump that jerk. Opie posts in the comments, I talked to my partner yesterday and it turns out the situation is different than what I thought. I see now that I was making a big deal out of nothing. My partner explained that he knew about the pictures and had taken some of them himself. He tried to explain it to me yesterday, but I was too hysteric to understand what he was saying. I'm sorry for wasting your time. Someone replies, Your partner is gaslighting you. You are not being hysterical. There is no reason your partner's brother should have a folder with pics of you sleeping, and he shouldn't be touching you like that. The whole situation is really, really wrong, and your partner is manipulating you into thinking it's okay. Opie says, I was just being stupid. If my partner agrees that his brother can have the pictures, it's not my place to deny it to him. I should have listened to him from the beginning. I'm sorry. But they're pictures of you. You didn't even know they existed. Opie says, I wasn't supposed to know about them. If I hadn't snooped through his private folders, this wouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have caused so much trouble. Another commenter says, You keep saying the situation isn't what you thought. So then, what is the situation? What did your partner explain to you that made this all okay? Opie says, He explained that he knew about the pictures and that he doesn't have a problem with it. He also took some of them and gave them to his brother. That means he doesn't have a problem with it. If he agrees with it, then I don't have the right to deny him. Commenter replies, So he may have also given his permission to grope you without your consent. No one has the right to decide for you who can have your photos or anything else. These two brothers are perverts and you are their victim. Someone asks, How old is your partner and his brother? Opie says, My partner is 41 and his brother is 37. I've known them since I was 10 or 11, so I didn't think it was important. Opie's 26, by the way. I talked to my partner yesterday and it turns out the situation is different than what I thought. I see now that I was making a big deal out of nothing. Someone replies, So you were 18 and he was 33 when you started dating, and he's known you since you were 10 or 11? You weren't making a big deal out of nothing. It made you uncomfortable. Just because he is comfortable with it does not mean your discomfort is invalid. Your emotions are valid and worth more than you are giving them credit. His feelings are not worth more than your own, even though he's helped you so much. I'm so sorry you're in this position. I wish you all the best. Good luck, love. Okay, on to an update. Hey, it's OP. I had to delete my account, but I wanted to update you on the situation. When I made this post, I fully expected to be told that I was in the wrong, and to stop turning it into such a big issue. Your positive response was a bit overwhelming, and I'm sorry if I offended anyone with my responses. My partner ended up seeing the post, and he wasn't happy about it. He made me delete the account and punished me for making him look bad in front of strangers. It took me until this morning for your words to truly sink in, so I just accepted it. I'm currently in the hospital after I had to beg him to go. I had surgery immediately and will be released tomorrow. I won't go back to him. He basically confirmed everything you said, but I was too stupid to realize it. After punishing me, he literally said, "This time you're lucky. Next time I'll kill you." I have a friend at uni that my partner doesn't know about. He'll pick me up and help me get my important things from my partner's house while he's at work. I'll also be staying with him for a while. I'm still scared that he'll somehow find out, but even if that happens, I'll have somebody with me. I really hope this update gets posted because I want to thank everybody who took the time to comment on my first post and even provided me with resources. I'm sorry it took so long for me to realize that you were right. Oh my god, I did not see that coming. I mean, Opie says he punished him, but he doesn't actually say what he did. But if he had to get surgery for it, it must have been pretty bad. Yeah, that entire comment thread I was reading before, it was just Opie kind of in denial the entire time. Safe to say he's probably got a bit of a reality check now. Alright, let's go to the final update. This morning I woke up to a bunch of messages and comments. I haven't managed to read and reply to all of them yet, but I promise that I will. It wasn't my intention to make anyone worry about me. My partner doesn't use social media. He thought by making me delete the account it would automatically delete the post as well. I'm safe now. I was released from the hospital last week and my friend and his roommate came with me to collect my things. My partner came home while I was looking for my important documents. He tried to stop me from leaving, but they protected me. I'm staying with them until I'm better. I'm very grateful to them because we don't actually know each other that well. I call him a friend, but it's more like just someone I know. We had to do a group project last semester and would talk from time to time. I've never been good at making friends. He probably is the closest thing I have to a friend, which is pretty pathetic when I think about it. I'm really thankful that he believed me and is helping me. Once again, thank you for your messages. Sometimes it still feels weird and there is a lot going on in my head that is probably wrong, but I'm getting better. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, did not see that twist coming. But yeah, even from reading the first post, you kind of got uneasy vibes. At least I did. Anyway, give me your thoughts and we'll go to our next one. Okie dokie, this next one was written by user Left Art and it's titled, "I'm rethinking having a child with my wife because of what I just found out about her dad. Am I the a-hole?" My wife Jessica, 32, and I, 30 male, have been married for 2 years and are trying for a baby. Jessica has an older sister, Mary, that she isn't close to. She told me that they had a huge falling out over some family drama and just don't speak anymore. I asked a few times about the entire situation, but she would say she doesn't like talking about it and doesn't think it's important. It was Jessica's brother's birthday yesterday and we were all over at his house to celebrate. Mary made an appearance and there was a lot of drama. Long story short, she called Jessica and her brothers out for still associating with their dad when they know that he is a child molester. No one was paying her any mind and I was really confused on what the heck was going on. When Mary left and Jessica and I went home, I asked Jessica what the hell happened. She said that when they were kids, Mary used to claim that their dad used to molest her. I asked if it's true and Jessica was stuttering a lot. She said she knows her dad used to do bad things, but that Mary cut them all off when she turned 18 and moved out. I asked if she is admitting that she knows her dad was a child molester and did things to his own daughter. She said he doesn't do it anymore and he was just in a really bad place in his life, and he apologized to Mary, so there's nothing else anyone can do for Mary. I was honestly appalled. I also feel so terrible for Mary. Jessica made it seem like Mary did something wrong and deserved to be basically exiled from the family. I could have never imagined that this is what happened. I asked if she expects me to now be willing to have that man around our future children, and she started shouting at me, saying I'm judging him off something that happened 2 decades ago, and whether I like it or not, he is going to be our child's grandpa and he will be in their lives. I said if she insists on it, I think we need to hold off on having kids and have serious conversations about it. She is extremely angry at me, but I don't know how I could better react, to be honest. This feels like a huge deal that she is minimizing. Am I the a-hole? Whew, that's a pretty serious thing to come to terms with. What do you guys think? I'm going to hand it over to you. Let me know down below. I mean, it's definitely something to have a conversation about, but whether or not it makes or breaks your relationship with your wife, God, that's a tough call. I divorced my ex-husband because of my mother-in-law, and suddenly he wants back in. I will be rambling a little as I'm very mad right now. Sorry for my bad English, it's not my first language. My ex and I were married for well over 5 years and together for 10. His mother was a nightmare. She would spend her time belittling me and tried humiliating me. I could take it as I loved my husband and didn't want to make him choose between her or me. Of course, I would always tell him what she'd be doing, and he would always brush it off as her being a loving and overprotecting mum. When she would say something racist, I'm Hispanic and they're white, he would laugh it off. When she would make a comment of me being a gold digger, even though I earned more than my ex, he would just say, "Oh, mum." He would also get mad at me if I ever stood up for myself. But the straw that broke the camel's back is when we had our daughter. My mother-in-law would always try to parent her and say that I would do something wrong. My daughter has an irritable colon and she cannot ingest any kind of freaking oils or artificial things. And guess what that loony of a woman did? She fed my 3-year-old daughter essential oils. She's not anti-vax, just very stupid. To make her go to sleep. She was in the ICU. I had it, and I confronted my husband, who said she only did what she thought was best. I lost it. I went to my parents and drafted a divorce agreement. That's the best course of action. I saw a post earlier describing a situation that is much more dangerous than mine, involving allergens in an EpiPen. His face was like that Pikachu meme when I served him. He didn't know why I was doing that because we were, quote, happy. So now a year has passed and my life was hell. My monster-in-law tried every dirty trick in the book to take my daughter. To name a few, she accused my brother of molesting her, she accused me of neglect, she accused me of taking drugs and leaving them in reach of a toddler. I take Thyroxin for heaven's sake. She accused me of endangering my daughter by leaving a random man in my house, and the list goes on. During this time, the excuse of my ex was that I broke his heart and I had to understand his mother. She only wants what's best for him. Luckily, I got good representation and even got my daughter full-time, minus some weekends or visitation. I could prove that my daughter was endangered by his mother. So now to the advice part. I knew that my ex needed to be permanently in my life because of my daughter, and I was learning to live with that. He was very cold with me because, again, I broke his heart. Now 2 things have come together. My ex-brother-in-law got married to an African-American woman, so of course my ex-mother-in-law flipped, and I started dating again. My brother-in-law is a great guy and he actually stood up for his wife. Go figure, it is possible. I stay in contact with him because we are friends and he was a mediator and fought with his brother quite often. So my brother-in-law actually stood up for his wife and my ex-husband got his panties in a twist. My brother-in-law basically opened his eyes to how crappy he was being and that their mum treated me the same way she treated his wife. And finally my dense ex started understanding. The guy I'm seeing is great. I've even met his parents and his mother is normal. She treats me like a human being and has invited me already to many family functions and tries to make me and my daughter feel welcomed. My ex got wind from the situation through a mutual friend, and guess who is now flipping his crap? He started bringing flowers and chocolate, I don't even like chocolate, to pick up our daughter. He sends me cards and SMS with hearts and who knows what. Yesterday was the best thing. My daughter was at my mother's place and I was at home with my boyfriend. He appears in front of my door crying and clutching my engagement ring, begging me to come back. I said no and that he should go away. He wouldn't and started demanding that I come out to talk to him. My boyfriend told him that he would call the police, and in his pathetic fashion he threatened to beat my boyfriend up. I closed the door and let him pound sand. Today he picked up my daughter for a day trip, and when they came back my daughter was asking if I loved my boyfriend more than her. Now I'm at a loss as to what to do. I already told my daughter that it was impossible because my love for her is infinite, and there is nothing bigger than infinite. But now I know that my ex is trying to make my daughter hate me. I'm at a loss because I won't use my daughter as ammunition. But also, what the hell am I supposed to do? I will never return with that man, but I can't take the father of my daughter. Do you guys have any advice? Yeah, I mean, Opie said it herself. The husband is pathetic. Let's look at the comments. Take notes on all of this. Get your daughter to a child psychologist who can get to the bottom of these attempts at parental alienation. Then go to court for sole custody and no unsupervised visits for your ex. Also look into a restraining order.
especially if he threatens your boyfriend again. The husband's tantrums at the door should also be recorded. It sucks, but if you have a chain of events to prove emotional instability, it may help the case. Your husband has started trying to use parental alienation on your child by poisoning the well with her relationship with you and your relationship with your new boyfriend. Have her speak to a child services officer or a court moderator or guardian ad litem to record what happened and how she was informed of this irrelevant information of, quote, Mummy loving her boyfriend more than me, the daughter. I don't think your ex-husband is safe for her to be around, as he is making irrational choices and it is negatively impacting your role as a parent and your daughter's well-being. Time to talk to a lawyer. What he is doing is freaking up your daughter's head so he can try to get back with you. Plenty of parents lose all visitation, except supervised, because of stupid crap like this. Also, this reveals how low he'll stoop and that he's also a piece of crap, not just his mother. You sound like you're doing great with the path you're on. Okay, first an edit and then some updates. Thank you all. I needed to vent and was feeling helpless, and I'm so thankful for you wonderful people. I talked to my lawyer who confirmed that we could have a case for domestic violence by proxy. A social worker will be visiting us in the next few days to talk to my daughter about this. Because apparently people want to spin the narrative on me, I don't care if he wants me back. I don't love him anymore and will never get back together with him. Staying for the sake of our daughter would not make sense, as it's been proven that kids grow up happier in divorced homes than unhappy homes. I tried talking to my husband when we were still married, and he would always brush it off. He would brush off everything his mother did. I complained to him and told him we needed to go to therapy, which he declined. He has his daughter on the weekends. The court gave me majority custody because of his mother. Jesus, guys, I guess in some of your eyes, I should have kept being by my ex's side as a submissive bimbo. Alright, now on to the update. I just posted here yesterday, but it feels like weeks have happened. So I've just left my daughter with my mother and I'm going to my lawyer again. I followed some advice you guys gave me, and we sat down with my daughter to chit-chat. We knew we couldn't prompt any kind of responses by asking overly specific questions as per her therapist. So my mother asked my daughter, let's call her Kat, Kat, what do you and Daddy talk about? And Kat just listed many toddler things like she talks about kindergarten, games, etc. When I was kind of relieved that the comment my ex made yesterday may just be a one-off, came the big bomb. He also shows me pictures of houses and tells me I can now have 2 rooms with loads of stuff. I ask if her dad is buying a new house. Nope. Turns out that nut wants to take my daughter out of the country. He shows her pictures of beach houses and even bought her a bag so she can put her stuff inside it, which explains why so many of her clothes have gone missing. At first I thought that maybe my ex hadn't told me yet because it hadn't come through, but no, he told my daughter to keep this a secret because Mummy would get sad if she knew that Daddy was going away. So I'm freaking livid, and also sad because I'll have to tell my daughter no. Once again, I feel lost. Edit. I talked to my lawyer and we have taken measures that I can't discuss here, but we're on it. I have my daughter's passport as we flew last month to visit extended family. Also, I'm a US citizen, so even if my ex-mother-in-law tried to have me deported, that wouldn't be possible. Oh no, he's going to try and run away with the kid. Alright, on to the final update 2 weeks later. So I thought of giving you the last update, as you helped me through this. I didn't have enough evidence to request an ex parte, aka emergency child custody, so my lawyer and I had to work on steps to prevent child abduction. We got a custody decree that included provisions including passports, travel restrictions, etc. We also had to be very wary of the signs. He in fact quit his job, and on a realtor's page, I saw that he was putting his mother's house on sale. That and my daughter's words was all we needed to notify law enforcement for them to keep an eye out. I couldn't prevent my daughter from seeing her father. We tried to continue business as usual without my daughter feeling something was up. I got a call from the police department regarding the passport situation. My daughter's passport had expired very recently, 5 years validity. My ex-husband had tried to request a passport for my daughter without my knowledge, which was stupid because even without the decree, I had to be present or submit a notarized document of me stating that he could request the passport. After that, things actually went very fast. He was investigated because he violated the decree, and it was found out that the mother-in-law had bought 3 tickets with no return date to Mexico. I could request an ex parte. After a crap ton of documents, I submitted it. In most cases, the judge will evaluate behind closed doors. We had the hearing yesterday. It takes usually 10 to 20 days, which was very good for me. At the moment, I have sole custody for my daughter. This is all temporary. My ex has visitation rights if I was present, but he can't take her anywhere. This is once the investigation of him is closed. I was cursed out by my ex and my ex-mother-in-law, and they said they'll try to contest this, but they have no leg to stand on. My daughter will continue in therapy, especially after this. I will not prohibit him from seeing her, but he needs help. This was really scary and a very intense 2 weeks. I don't think that I'll update again, but I wanted to thank you all for your tips and support. I'm really thankful as I'm finally not anxious the whole time. Thank you, really much. What the hell? So the racist mother-in-law who hated her Hispanic daughter-in-law is running away to Mexico on a one-way ticket? Tell me if it makes sense. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user No Decision, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend when his ex died, leaving him to take care of his kids full time? I, female 26, have been with my boyfriend, male 30, for 2 years now. He has 2 kids, male 6 and female 4, with his ex-girlfriend. She moved to another state with kids to be near her family when they broke up 3 years ago. He gets them on vacations only. I knew all this when I started dating him. I had no issues with this, but told him forefront I can't be a parent. I was parentified by my mum and raised my 5 younger siblings. The oldest of them is 6 years younger to me, and I had to change his diapers and feed him formula. I went low contact with my family when I left home at 18. I can't imagine doing that again. He was also snipped after last kid and didn't want more kids. He was fine with me not wanting to be a parent and just to be a bonus adult. We were taking it slow and I didn't even meet his kids until a few months back. We took a trip together and got along great. Things changed 2 months ago when his ex died. Kids were really crushed as they moved into his house. We were not living together, but he asked if I could move in to help him out, just for a while. I couldn't refuse and stayed, but I started hating it again. I hated how clingy the kids became and how much responsibility I had. I did my best, but my mental health started getting worse every day. I didn't even get help from my boyfriend because he was struggling too. Last week was especially bad since the younger kid had a cold and wanted me to nurse her back to health, exactly as her mum would have. The soup wasn't the same. The song and story wasn't told the same way. I didn't hug her the way her mum did, etc., with some of the long list of complaints. I know she's grieving, but I was already working from home, and stressed too. When I told my boyfriend he should take over, he said they need me more since I'm a mum. It triggered me. I didn't want to be held to a mum's responsibilities again. I told him I can't do this. He said I needed to stop acting like a child and step up. I understood if I stayed, my whole life would be like this, never measuring up, never being enough, and all the responsibilities of a mum. I left yesterday and moved in with a friend. My boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, is blasting my phone calling me an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? It seems like the boyfriend was kind of comfortable enough in your relationship that he just assumed you would take on the role of the mother, which is obviously not okay. You can't just assume something like that, no matter how good the relationship is or no matter how good you get on with the kids. Let's check out some comments. Not the a-hole. He said I needed to stop acting like a child and step up. You're 26, that ain't your kid. You're not even married. Why did I have to scroll so far down to see this comment? They aren't even married. They were not living together. She had barely even met the kids. OP's relationship had an expiration date the moment the kid's mum died, but she was kind and pitched in to help out temporarily anyways. Living together was only supposed to be temporary. Dating is an audition for a more serious commitment. Even if they've been living together when mum died, these kids aren't her responsibility. Your ex-boyfriend just failed his audition. Quote, when I told my boyfriend he should take over, he said they need me more since I'm a mum. Not the a-hole, and good on you for moving out. You shouldn't have to be unwillingly parentified a second time. It does look like he planned on making you the main parent instead of himself. Not the a-hole. As heartbreaking as this all is, this isn't what you signed up for, and you were upfront with him from the beginning about not wanting to be a parent. Had you stayed, your mental health would have continued to decline, and sooner or later the kids would have picked up on the resentment you would undoubtedly feel. Kids don't deserve that, and neither do you. Why is he not at home with his sick child? Listen, he wants you to move in so you can take over all the parenting decisions and responsibilities when he can continue on about his life. He even called you mum. After hearing about your childhood, he still had the nerve to do this. He needs to step up and be there for his children, and you did the right thing. Okay, let's move on to the update and see what happened. Last few days were chaotic and full of confusion, to say the least. I didn't answer a lot of questions, and I'm sorry to you all for that. I was not in the right state of mind and was overwhelmed by all the replies. As is human nature, all the reasons I was an a-hole and cold-hearted B messed with my mind a lot. To answer a few questions. 1. I didn't leave without goodbye. I had told the kids goodbye. I didn't want to cause too much strain and said I was leaving for a while for work. I did just tell my ex I was leaving. I couldn't take another round of stop acting like a child and grow up. 2. I don't normally work from home. He asked me to stay home with his daughter, stating he doesn't know how to take care of a sick kid. She really was sick at first and I went along with it, but he refused to even help in the evenings. 3. Most of your assumptions about him were true in the sense I almost always ended up looking after the kids alone. He rarely did his part. It was either he was exhausted, he couldn't face them, he didn't know how to deal with their grief, or I did it better. It was not what we agreed upon when I moved in to help. I was supposed to help him, show him the ropes, but I ended up feeling like a single mum. 4. As a parent, he got custody. His ex's parents said that was for the best, since they were already retired. They did not want to raise the kids. Anyway, I was able to move back into my earlier apartment. Thankfully, the landlord hadn't rented it to anyone else. I did have a lease, but I did not want to keep paying rent, and had come to an agreement with the landlord to sublet the apartment from month to month till I'm back. Being back in my space, I feel much more calmer. I also met with my ex. After the initial blasting, he called me yesterday asking if we could meet. I wanted to get more clarity too and agreed. He came over, finally got a babysitter, and we had a good talk. He apologised for everything he said and demanded I do. He said it was a big unexpected change for him too. He was scared and didn't know how to raise them, being a vacation dad. Having children home every day and thinking this was how it's going to be for the rest of his life, his words, had him terrified. I said I understood, but I cannot be a mum to those kids. I cannot take up his responsibilities. I want to help, but not in that capacity. I needed boundaries. He said he expected as much. He agrees he should never have asked so much of me. He asked if I could help him still, that the kids missed me and asked when I'll be back. He needed me. And I refused. I told him I will help him. I will come around sometimes when I can, as a friend of Dad's would, but I won't move back in. I won't be a stepmum. He asked if I was breaking up with him. The truth is, I don't know. I do love him, but it won't work out in long term, and everything he did and said is still raw in my mind. I said as much to him. I can't be in a committed relationship with him. I won't go anywhere. I will help and support as much as I can, but as a friend. I guess we're ending that relationship. I met the kids this morning. I went over there with some pancakes. They asked when I was coming back to live with them. I told them I have my own home to take care of, but I'll visit them when I can. While surprised, they seemed to be accepting the situation. They had questions, of course, but accepted I'll just be Daddy's friend. His daughter asked if I could still be her best friend. I agreed. I guess that won't be too hard. She gave me a hug before he took them to school and daycare. I actually feel so much better too. This was a role I can deal with. I don't know if it's the right way, but I hope it works. Thank you for all the replies and guidance. Alrighty guys, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. I think Opie gets a pretty good ending there. While it is sad that she kind of had to end her relationship there, I think it was inevitable, That one comment earlier really summed it up, that ever since the mother of the kids died, the relationship gained an expiration date. Am I the a-hole for taking back a shawl my wife made for a bride-to-be after she was uninvited from the wedding? My wife, Lena, crochets a lot and often gifts it to friends and family. When her second oldest brother got married, she made the bride a shawl to wear over her dress in the evening. The bride loved it, and ever since Lena has made shawls for everyone in her family getting married. Now, Lena's oldest brother, George, is getting married again. Lena doesn't have a relationship with George as he was abusive to her as a child, but if she has to see him, then she's polite but distant with him. She doesn't want to cut off the rest of her family because of George. I work with George, and while we aren't friends, we are friendly at work. Lena encourages this. When George got moved to my team, I was going to request a transfer, not wanting to expose Lena to George, as my team do a lot of get-togethers with our significant others. As it is a family wedding, Lena's mum asked her if she could crochet a shawl for George's fiancée, and Lena agreed. It was arranged that once it was finished, I would take it to work to give to George so that Lena didn't have to see him. Earlier this week, the shawl was completed and I emailed George at work to let him know that I'd bring it in today, as the wedding is tomorrow. When I got into work this morning, I gave George the shawl and let him know that Lena and I were looking forward to the wedding. Come lunchtime, Lena called me to let me know that George's fiancée had called her and told her she was no longer invited to the wedding, citing that the place they're having the wedding and the reception at is too small for the number they have coming, so they're having to make cutbacks. However, I was still invited to the wedding. I was mad at this because they clearly only invited Lena to get a shawl, which to me is just rude. If they'd asked Lena outright to make one, she probably would have done because she loves to crochet. On my way out of work, I noticed George wasn't at his desk, but the shawl was. I was still mad that they'd used Lena to get a shawl, and I just shoved it in my work bag. I left a note on his desk telling George since Lena was no longer invited, the shawl and I would no longer be attending either. On my way home, I told Lena what I'd done and asked her if she wanted to go out instead, so not to waste having a sitter. Lena was upset that I'd taken the shawl, as it was causing an uproar in her family group chat where people were calling her petty because I took it back. Lena wants me to give it back. I don't think I should. They don't deserve Lena's kindness. However, at the same time, I don't want Lena to be upset with me over George and a shawl. Am I the jerk for taking back the shawl? Nah, definitely not the a-hole for me. That was a good move. If the wife's not going to stand up for herself, at least OP is. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. I would have taken it back. It was extremely rude to uninvite your wife but still allow you to come. No point giving the shawl back now. What's done is done. Not the a-hole. Your wife needs to learn how to have a backbone. She's being used for her unpaid skills and mistreated at the same time. Not the a-hole. Actually, you're the rock star for standing up to this childish behaviour by George and his fiancée on behalf of your wife. The day before the wedding, and they do a head count for a wedding? No way. I bet if you'd told them that you'd bring the shawl to the wedding, they would not have uninvited Lena. There's a slight touch of a-hole doing this without your wife's permission, but again, in my opinion, that's what made you the rock star. Not the a-hole. Your wife is a people pleaser. Your brother-in-law did this to steal a shawl. Getting something through false pretense is stealing. From someone who was dismissed and used by my family, I applaud you for defending your wife. Yeah, 100% agree with those comments. Let's go to the update. So, everyone will be glad to know that I've not given George back the shawl. I mean, part of the reason I haven't given it back is because he's on his honeymoon. I hope it's arranged for the 2 weeks. But even if he wasn't, I still wouldn't give it back. Later that evening, Lena apologised for being mad at me. She said that she should never have agreed to make the shawl in the first place, and was grateful I'd taken it back. Lena and I had a long discussion about her family, and how they treat her. I told her that I would always stand up for her when it comes to her family, because I will stand strong when she can't. I asked her what she thought about going lower contact. We were already low contact, with George, his now wife, and her mum. Lena said that she wanted to go no contact with George, his wife, her mum, and to go low contact with everyone else but her second oldest brother and his wife. We'll call them Michael and Sarah. She said she wanted to do this because of how toxic the group chat had become, which she has now left, and has shown me that she's left and deleted the chat. We have both blocked everyone but Michael and Sarah. I'm going to wait a couple of weeks before I broach therapy for Lena again. I just want the dust to settle a bit, as I don't want her to feel pushed into anything. The story the wife gave Lena about there not being enough space was bullcrap. Michael confirmed that George had told him weeks ago that they were well under numbers for their venue. It was just a crap attempt at a power move. I know some Redditors were concerned about my work life after I took the shawl. I spoke with my manager and told him that Lena had made a shawl for George's wife, but they'd given a crap reason for uninviting her to the wedding the day before the wedding, and I took it back. When I told my manager this, he sighed heavily before telling me that he wished I hadn't taken the shawl because George could make things difficult for me, but that he would have done exactly the same thing because George is a nightmare. I told him that I'd like to move to another team because it wasn't good for Lena to have to be around him. He told me to leave it with him and he would see what he could do. I'd have moved when George was first put on my team, but Lena encouraged me not to, as she didn't want me to rock the boat with her family. I heard back on Monday that I will be getting moved to another team at the end of the week. This other team is desperate for someone, so when my manager reached out to the other managers to see if anyone had an internal vacancy, this manager bit his arm off. The day of the wedding, Michael called Lena and asked what our plans had been for the day. Michael knew that Lena wasn't invited to the wedding, and rightly assumed I wouldn't go if she wasn't welcome. Lena told him that we had planned to go out for dinner and drinks. Michael told her that sounded like a plan, and to text him when we were going for dinner. Michael and Sarah had decided to skip the wedding after seeing the meltdown of George, his wife, and their mum in the group chat. Apparently they continued spouting abuse at Lena, even though she'd left the group chat. When the family turned on me and our children was when Michael and Sarah decided they weren't going to the wedding at all. They were just going to go to the ceremony after Lena had been uninvited. They messaged George to tell him their flight had been delayed and they wouldn't be able to make it. Their flight wasn't delayed, it was just the excuse they used, and George never responded. Michael had seen George's abuse of Lena firsthand. He had tried to protect Lena where he could, but there was only so much he could do as a child himself, and didn't want to be on the receiving end of George's temper either. As an adult, he took the first chance he had to move away from his family, while only maintaining contact with Lena. So we went out with Michael and Sarah, having a much better night than we would have done at the wedding. There were no snide comments, no belittling, nothing. Lena was happy as she got to see Sarah, and that was what she was looking forward to. Lena being happy was all I wanted. It's all I ever want, my family to be happy. Both Michael and Sarah's phones did keep going off all night, as mother-in-law and George kept messaging them angry at their non-attendance, especially after Michael posted a picture of the four of us together having drinks on Facebook, with a caption about how he was choosing Lena over George going forward because she doesn't use people to get what they want, like George did over a crochet shawl. Michael admitted to me later that he did this to anger George because he'd have a meltdown at the reception and then his in-laws could see what an a-hole he really is. Given the gleeful messages I got from Michael last week after he'd heard back from a cousin who attended, George had a complete meltdown. Lena knows about this post, but she's not comfortable with me posting pictures of her work. She considered unravelling the shawl, but she found it difficult to undo all her hard work, which I understand. It's the very reason I didn't unravel it myself and tell George it was an IKEA shawl. Well, that, and I didn't want to face a mad Lena. After talking with Sarah about what to do with it, she has decided that she's going to keep it, but she will dye it. Michael suggested that she wears it to the family Christmas. We aren't going to see Lena's family at Christmas, so it won't be happening anyway. Michael and I are at the same level of pettiness as I had previously suggested, as some people commented on my original post, that I could wear it to work when George is back. I didn't show Lena many of the comments. She doesn't need to see people calling her a doormat or saying she needs to grow a spine. Those people clearly haven't had their spirit completely broken by the people who are meant to love them unconditionally or were completely cut out of family events. When George graduated from uni, Lena was left at home. She was 8 years old and left home alone all day. Christmas was spent mostly in her bedroom because her grandmother didn't want Lena around as her presence would just upset George. Until she was 14, then she would sneak out and spend it with me and my family. Lena was just left out of everything. Her dad used to work away from home a lot, so he had no idea what was going on. He just assumed Lena liked her own space, not that she would just stay in her room because she was used to being neglected by her family. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Gee, what champions Michael and Sarah are. It's great to hear that Opie still has some good family to rely on. Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okay, this next one's a bit of a saga with posts from several different subreddits. It's titled, I just found my ex-wife is feeding my kids turpentine. I found this out, like I do most things about life with their mother, through the kids, male 7 and female 5, as communication has been pretty much non-existent between the ex and I since our split 6 years ago. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I don't ever press my kids for information. I've worked very hard to establish an uninhibited, open, no topic is off limits type of relationship with my kids, even though I've only got them every other weekend. I want them to feel comfortable enough to fully express themselves and speak their mind freely around me. This has led to several discoveries about certain aspects of their life that their mother has asked them not to reveal to me, something I'm very much against. I don't believe any child should have to hold secrets between their parents. It isn't their responsibility, and is something I would never ask of them. That being said, they've come out with nuggets of wisdom such as we shouldn't be drinking tap water because the government puts chemicals in there that make us docile and obedient, Santa isn't real but Jesus is, and the Bible is 100% fact. Controversial topic, I understand, and most recently that the government says turpentine is poisonous but it's actually good for you. What the heck do I do here? If I speak to my ex about this, or even let slip that I know what's going on, she isn't going to have an honest conversation about it with me, and I fear that she'll just press the kids even harder to keep things from me. I don't want their heads filled with this rubbish, but I feel so powerless to stop this. All I can do is try to teach them to think critically, but that is only going to be so effective when they're getting told all this nonsense is fact. Help. Edit. I spoke to my children about it and recorded the conversation to ensure there was no confusion about what was being said. They were being fed a spoonful of turpentine every day by their nana for the past 4 weeks while they were all away on holidays, but there is zero chance my ex wasn't aware this was happening. Definitely turpentine. 100% pure gum turpentine, my boy said the bottle read. The distilled stuff, he said. They even started singing that Mary Poppins song, A spoonful of sugar helps the turpentine go down. I feel like I'm in an alternate timeline. Thank you everyone for being so helpful. I appreciate it so much. Jesus Christ, OP seems way too calm in this situation. Let's look at some comments. This could cause brain damage, organ damage, and even death in children. Do something ASAP. Call an attorney, CPS. Take them to the doctor and get them checked out. Just a heads up, you could also get into serious trouble if something happens to them from the turpentine and you neglected to do anything about it. You could be held accountable right along with her. Turpentine oil has serious and deadly side effects. You need to call social services and report your wife. If she's consistently giving them doses of turpentine oil, it will show up on a toxicology report. I also have a similar co-parenting situation. I've always told my kids that if anybody ever tells them not to tell me something about their own lives, bodies, or activities, that is exactly when they should tell me. They shouldn't tell others secrets, but they shouldn't keep anything about themselves from me if they don't want to. This is a bit terrifying. I would look into maybe either trying to get full custody or at least upping it. Talk to a lawyer and see if they think you have a case. Sorry, but you found out your ex-wife is poisoning your kids and your response is to get on Reddit instead of taking your kids to the hospital and contacting authorities? Hopefully this is as fake as it seems. OP replies, Ex-wife. The kids seem asymptomatic. Had I not been made aware of this, I probably would never have known anything was up. That being said, my mother is a nurse and we did have the kids looked at. Yes, I came to Reddit as one source among several for guidance because I had no effing clue what to do about this or even what my options were. I try not to act rash or emotionally impulsive when it comes to my children. I try to weigh up my options. My father has a muddy history, so even though he's not the same person he was 15 years ago, a CPS investigation has potential to forcefully alienate my children from their grandparents. That's just one example of what factors into this. I wish this were fake. What the F? Asymptomatic? Dude, they've told you she's poisoning them. You should have immediately taken them to the hospital, regardless of whether you can see symptoms. I don't care if your mum is a nurse. She can't run tests by looking at them. Anyway, I'm still not convinced this is real. But if it is, what you just said about your dad makes this all more confusing and sketchy. Take your kids to the hospital and seek legal help. OP replies, We spoke to the hospital, man. We called ahead. There was literally nothing they were prepared to do for us other than what we'd already done. They wouldn't run tests unless the kids were exhibiting symptoms or they had a referral, even after telling them what was going on. The nurse was very apologetic, but it is what it is. Best they could offer was a place 2 hours away that wouldn't open until tomorrow anyway. I know what you're saying, but it just isn't that simple. And yeah, I understand that seems sketchy. I guess it kind of is. There's no legal help I could possibly get on a Sunday evening, and no way we could move things forward without rushing into it. We're going through everything tomorrow, properly and thoughtfully. Jesus Christ, record some evidence, send it to the cops, and have your ex imprisoned for child endangerment at the very least. This type of potato is going to start feeding them frickin' bleach or urine sooner than later. Not even joking. She's a dangerous level of stupid that your kids should not be forced to suffer. It is your responsibility to take action to protect them from her. Opie says, unfortunately, the only evidence I have is second-hand verbal account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mother, his grandmother, who is a Korean nurse, who promptly told me what was going on. She's 50 shades deep into crazy conspiracy theories herself, and even she was mortified upon hearing this. My ex won't say or admit to anything, and I don't trust her to be honest if her custody arrangement is on the line. It's all just conjecture at this point. Another commenter says, hire a private eye, get evidence. It's your responsibility as a parent to protect your child. You can't be so passive. Do something. Opie says, I agree, it is my responsibility. I have zero intention of being passive about this. I just see my current options hitting a lot of dead ends. That's why I've come here. If I'm going to go the legal route, I want to move it through clean, calculated, no room for error. He said, she said BS won't even get me a seat in the courtroom. Private investigator could be something worth following up though. Thank you. Those poor kids. Good idea picking this idiot to mate with. Opie says, yeah, look, I've got no good defense for that. Changed a lot after she got her ring though. There's a reason I'm not still with her. Now for another post Opie did on a legal advice subreddit. So I just found out through my kids that my ex-wife has been feeding them turpentine mixed with sugar or honey as a way to worm them, and also been using it to topically treat mosquito bites. They are 7 male and 5 female. Reading up on what it does if you ingest it, because who the hell would even think that's a good idea to drink paint thinner as medicine, it can be devastating and it really doesn't take a whole lot to mess you up, especially if you're a child. Think, 1 tablespoon could potentially be enough to change your life. Kinda messed up. I don't think talking to the ex is going to yield any results, and realistically I don't even expect her to be honest about it anyway. My only evidence so far is the second-hand account of the testimony of a 7-year-old boy. He told my mum or his grandma, and she went and told me. Do I have any legal options here? Should I be collecting evidence, and if so, what kind? I honestly don't know what to do. I can't have my kids being fed literal poison, and to top it off they were saying, yeah, the government tells us it's poison, but it's actually good for you. This isn't the first time they've come out with little nuggets of conspiracy-soaked wisdom like this. Tap water makes you docile and obedient sort of stuff, but this one is truly terrifying. They were meant to go back to their mother today, but I've got them in my care until next weekend, due to an undisclosed emergency that my ex sprung on me about an hour ago. Never mind that, I'm starting a new job tomorrow and wasn't prepared in any way to look after them for a week with no notice. But please, if anyone here can give me a few tips or pointers, I would be so grateful. I'm stressing pretty bad about this. I don't know what to do. I'm located in Victoria, Australia, if that makes any difference to the situation. Okay, and in these comments, one user says, kids to the doctor for a checkup immediately. If they've been drinking paint thinner, odds are their doctor will be able to tell. If your kid's story checks out, then go to a lawyer first thing tomorrow morning. Hell, call around and see if you can find someone today. And file an emergency motion for sole custody. Talk to your lawyer about how best to approach the police with this. If your wife is feeding them poison, and their doctor confirms it, then absolutely do not return the kids to her care. If you acted promptly to amend custody, then violating any current order to protect them from their mother is reasonable. Down the line, I expect you'll want to get your kids into counselling. Having a professional to talk to them about their mother's disordered belief system will help immensely. You may want one as well, for this support. And now for the final update. The kids have been medically assessed. They've had blood work done, testing for liver and kidney function, as well as any other abnormalities, and have undergone some minor testing. Thankfully, everything has come back clear, and they seem to be happy and in good health, apart from my daughter being a little upset about being jabbed with needles. There were, however, some very concerning statements made by my kids to the doctors who screened them, both with and without any family present. Everything said has been transcribed and documented in their discharge papers. CPS has been informed of the situation. The situation has been reported to the police and a medical release statement has been filed with them. They told me they would remain in contact with CPS and wait for their lead. The kids are legally staying within the care of myself and my family until further notice from child services. At this point in time, I've had no contact with my ex since this all came about. I have a tip on a great family law legal representative whom I will contact in the very near future to discuss my steps moving forward and about making a claim for primary custodial care. My family fully supports this decision and we are all still incredibly shocked about this whole scenario. I'm on the verge of having an absolute meltdown, but things actually seem okay for now. My kids are safe. I couldn't be more grateful for how supportive my family and friends have been over the last couple of days. Thank you to everyone who gave me their advice and support. I appreciate every one of you. Please do not feed your children turpentine. Oh my god, well, good to hear that the kids are okay. What an unbelievable story. I wonder what they were giving the kids if it wasn't turpentine. Were they hoping it was going to give like a placebo effect? This is weird. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend that he can't move in with me? I, 30 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 32 male, for about 5 months now. I own my home as I purchased it this February, and it's my second home. I made a good amount on my first home, and put most of that money towards this house. I have a good career, making about $80,000, and my mortgage is $1,500. My boyfriend rents a room from his friend, who owns a townhouse. His friend travels a lot for work and is hardly ever home, maybe 1 week out of the month or so. My boyfriend pays $800 a month, which includes utilities. It's a nice place and my boyfriend makes good money as well, probably around $60,000 to $70,000. So recently, his friend was thinking about selling his townhouse and just moving in with his girlfriend. He told my boyfriend this, who then came over one night and sort of sprung it all on me and told me that he should move in with me. I was really shocked, as we have only been dating for 5 months, and I really don't think that is long enough time for me to think about letting him move in. I tried talking about it with him and told him I needed some time to think it over. He was visibly annoyed, but let it go. So, yesterday, I got a text from him stating that his friend plans to visit his townhouse in October and my boyfriend needs to be out by the end of October. My boyfriend doesn't have a lease or anything, but he texted me and said he needs to move in with me short term, as that's not enough time to find an apartment. I texted him back and said we could talk that night. When he came over last night, he was ranting and begging me to let him move in, about how he didn't make enough money to get an apartment, and that it would just be less stressful for him to move in with me, that if he could help pay half, then it would be good for me too, etc., etc. I shut down that idea and told him we have not been together long enough for me to want to take that step. He got upset and called me heartless and then left. He texted me today and apologized, but still asked that I think about it a few more days. I told my friend and co-worker today about everything, and he said that I'm a jerk for not letting him move in. I was really shocked, but my co-worker kept going, saying that in this economy, people can't afford to live by themselves, and that 5 months is long enough to move in together. I didn't say anything, but just remained quiet. So, am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend that he can't move in with me? Yeah, I mean, obviously the boyfriend can't assume that he's going to be able to move in with her, but, you know, it is a highly stressful situation, so I'm not surprised he asked her. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. 5 months is not long enough. If things go south, how do you get him out? Will he have a rental agreement? Then you have to follow tenant law. If not, and he receives mail at your house, then it's a whole different issue. His pushy nature and not respecting your clear boundary is concerning too. He can find a room for rent on Craigslist. He's just looking for an easy way out. Hold your ground. Not the a-hole. Don't listen to your co-worker, and don't take relationship advice from them again. You're not obligated to take in your boyfriend, and his ranting, annoyed response speaks volumes about his character, like he can't take a no for an answer. Also, if you let him in for the short term, he's not going to leave.
not the a-hole. Do not let him push you around. His behaviour about this is a series of red flags. You earn more and are a responsible homeowner. You're still in the vetting stage of a relationship, and he should still be courting you. He also has 2 months to find a place, which should be enough time. He can likely find someone with a place looking for a roommate. Let him do that and then observe how he navigates being a new roommate. If he's smart and is interested in an LTR with you, he'll respect your position, live elsewhere, save money, and down the line you can decide together if you have a future together. Someone asks, could boyfriend be lying about why his roommate is moving? Opie replies, his friend is really selling as his girlfriend's apartment is very close to the airport, while the townhome is about 45 minutes away. I did look up similar homes in the neighbourhood just to see if it was a possibility that my boyfriend could buy it. The average price is around $350 to $450K. I'm meeting my boyfriend tonight, so I'll suggest it when we talk, but I'm not sure if that's something he wants or could afford. Alrighty, on to the update. Well, today has been a stressful day, but I appreciate all the comments. I'm still reading through them all, but I wanted to give an update. First, my coworker surprised me this morning as I came in, and he had coffee and a sandwich sitting on my desk. He was waiting for me and said he was an idiot and that he was sorry. I've been at my job for over a year now, and this is the first time we've had a disagreement about something. He said he went home and told his girlfriend that he knew he upset me. His girlfriend chastised him and told him he was in the wrong. They talked about it, and she told him that my boyfriend is an adult and that he needs to act like it. We talked this morning a little, but work got busy today, so we didn't talk much the rest of the day. As for my boyfriend, he texted me this morning and asked if he could call me at lunch. I said that was fine, and then I stepped out at lunch to take his call. I started talking first and told him that he cannot move in with me. I explained that we are not at that stage yet, where I feel comfortable having him move in. I told him I would help him look for an apartment, help him pack and move, and help with anything else he needed, but I was firm on it. He was quiet for a while, and then he told me that he can't afford an apartment on his salary. This didn't make sense to me. As far as I knew, my boyfriend didn't have any outrageous debt, and he has a good salary. He's an account manager, and he told me a while back that he makes less than $75K. He also drives an older car, so no car payment, and he got a scholarship to play baseball in college. So I asked him how he couldn't afford an apartment. He spent about 5 minutes talking about how he has other bills to pay, and that eating out daily was getting expensive. My boyfriend does not cook. His job has a cafeteria, so he eats breakfast and lunch there, and orders food every night for dinner. This was my only concern in the 5 months we've been dating. He talked for a little bit more, and every time I asked him a question about it, the responses were vague. I even asked him if he has a lot of credit card debt or something, but things were just not adding up. Finally, though, he told me that he lied. He only received a partial scholarship to play baseball, and he has an embarrassing amount of student loans. My boyfriend went to an expensive private college, so I can only guess how much that cost. I was pretty shocked, but things started to click into place. He talked a little more about how he really can't afford a higher rent payment than what he is paying now. I did ask how much and if he was paying on them now, but he said sort of. He maxed out the total for federal loans, but he also has a lot of private loans. He's paying on the private ones currently, but not the federal ones. He said everything kind of came crashing down on him at once as the payment pause ends in October, and his friend wants him out of the townhouse. I told him it was a lot to take in, but that it still wouldn't change my mind about him moving in. He said he understood, but he wanted me to come over for dinner tonight and talk more about everything and our relationship. He said he didn't want to lose me over this, but he did tell me he was hurt that I wasn't ready to take the next step. I told him we'll talk later and hung up. Now I have a few hours before our dinner, but I am on the fence on breaking up with him. I feel like I got some of the information, but not everything. I thought about it all afternoon and realized that I needed to hear him out, but also see how he plans to move forward. He is not moving in with him. Part of the reason I felt so strongly against it is because I felt like he only wanted to move in because it would save him money, and not because he cared for our relationship. I make a comfortable salary and can pay my bills. I have student loans, but a reasonable amount, and I live within my means. I have no car loans or credit card debt. I worked hard for what I have,
and I want a partner who wants to work towards a future together, and not one where they rely solely on me to pay for them without putting in the same amount of effort. I cannot tell if my boyfriend wants to make this relationship work because he cares about us, or if he just sees an easy option for his financial problems. I will hear him out tonight and make my decision then. I have not experienced any other red flags or behaviour from him, but I am much more cautious now and will listen to what and how he speaks tonight. I wonder what happens. Let's go to the final update. Not sure anyone is still looking at this, but I ended up breaking up with my boyfriend. Without going into everything that was said, it basically came down to the simple fact that he did not want to move in to further our relationship. He only wanted to move in because he wanted to save money, and he hoped that I would help him by letting him move in and lowering his bills and rent so he could pay off his debts. To be completely honest, the whole thing made me feel so gross. I started to question why he was even dating me, and at that point, I knew it was over. My ex surprisingly took the breakup well. No fighting or begging me to change my mind. We went our separate ways, but neither one of us blocked the other on social media. Yesterday, my ex posted that he was in a new relationship and that they were moving in together. I really don't want to think about anything relating to our relationship, and I ended up blocking him on everything for peace of mind. So that's the final update. Not ready to start dating just yet, but spending time with my friends and family and hoping to enjoy the fall weather. Alrighty, there you go folks, that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, can't really say I expected that outcome, but I expected that outcome. Alright, let's go to the next story. Okay, this next one was written by a throwaway account on relationship advice, and it's titled, I haven't seen my husband in 3 years. His sister invited me to her wedding. How can I emotionally prepare for an inevitable confrontation? My husband and I are separated, but I'm still very close to his sister. In April, she called to inform me she was going to get married in September and that she wanted me and my son, 5 male, there. She asked me to be a bridesmaid, but I declined as I didn't want to risk being around the rest of my in-laws longer than I had to. I tried to tell her I would send my son alone and with his dad, but she said as her best friend I had to come. I don't want to go, but I'm willing to suck it up for her. My husband and I separated due to him always working and me feeling abandoned after I had our son. His family, excluding his sister who I knew before we even dated, were also a big factor in our separation and made the whole thing more painful. We share custody of our son, but I haven't seen him at all in 3 years. He has a nanny pick up and drop off our son. If we need to discuss something about him, it's done through someone else who works for him. He continues to financially support us though. I know seeing him at the wedding is going to be an overwhelming experience, and I was wondering if anyone had any tips on how to deal with it. Let's look at the comments. Maybe go to the ceremony and skip the reception. 3 years is a long time and you still have problems facing the man you have a child with. Have you considered therapy? As for the wedding, do you have any other friends that are going? I can't believe this. You are having a son together and you don't talk together at all? How do you think your son feels about being transferred like this? That his mum and dad can't have a civilized contact? This poor kid is going to have a hell of a childhood. You have to end this immediately and get in contact with his father, wedding or no wedding. Okay, now for some edits and an update. I don't think I explained it well in the original post, but when I said he worked a lot, it wasn't to support the family, it was because he was married to his job. I think in a year I would see him for 10 to 20 days, and the rest he would either be working late or on a business trip he forgot to mention. His secretary would tell me after he was already gone. He works for his family's company, and he could have easily reduced his hours without hurting financially, but he chose not to. It felt like our relationship was just convenient, so he could have sex whenever he was at home. After our son, I had a miscarriage, and I begged him not to go on another trip because I knew something was wrong, and he went anyway, and then I couldn't reach him the whole time he was away. To be honest, there's just a lot of hurt and resentment that have been unresolved for 3 years. Everyone seems to assume that the not communicating with my husband about my son was my decision. It was his. I was more than willing to co-parent with him directly. He's the one who insisted we communicate through a third party to keep things neutral. I've taken the advice of the majority and contacted my ex to see if we could meet before the wedding.
I don't think he'll respond, but at least I tried. Okay, let's go to the update. Thank you to everyone who replied to my original post. Your comments were very helpful and forced me to acknowledge I had a much bigger problem than just the wedding. I tried to contact my husband the day after I posted the original. Like always, his assistant intercepted and told me my husband was away, and if I had a message for him, I should send it through him. I ended up giving him an ultimatum of either meeting with me before the wedding, or neither my son nor I would attend. I expected him to ignore it, but he reached out to me a few hours later, and we arranged to meet a week later. The meeting went fine. It was very awkward at first, but I got out most of what I wanted to say. He agreed we couldn't keep doing things the way we were doing them, but claimed he had no use for a divorce, so if I wanted one, I should file. This annoyed me because he said he would file when we split, so we argued over it for a while. He ended up reluctantly agreeing to going to therapy so we could have a healthier co-parenting relationship, but we haven't started yet because of his schedule. He also agreed to handle all matters about our son personally, instead of through his assistant from now on. He's managed to stick to this so far. He also spent a few hours with our son at my place, which would normally never happen. My son was happy, so even if it was a little awkward for us, it was worth for him. The wedding was last week, and it was a beautiful event. I'm glad I went. My son was ecstatic the whole day. Even a week later, he keeps saying it was his absolute favourite day. We did end up sitting next to each other, and it was surprisingly nice. His family were on their best behaviour, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law apologised for how they treated me during the early days of our separation, which was unexpected but welcome. Things are obviously far from being fixed, but I think we can work towards a better co-parenting relationship for our son's sake. Alrighty, and we're finished up on that one as well. Yeah, some lessons learned there, I think. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about that one, but all in all, yeah, a good ending. Okay, on to our next story. Okay, now this one was posted by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Idiot Fiancé Breaks Up With Me and Ruins His Own Life. Last week, my 27 female fiancé, 29 male, we'll call him Mason, broke up with me because I told him that I didn't want to leave my job and move across the country so he could be a streamer. I make very good money here in Minneapolis. My family is here, and I love the scenery of the area, outside the city of course. My ex was basically a stay-at-home boyfriend. He worked only 20 hours a week as a barista at the Starbucks that is literally a 5-minute walk from our apartment. I work as an NICU nurse and I make good money, so I was never worried about our financials. What worried me was that, despite Mason having a biology degree, he was never able to get a full-time biology job. I think he was never even looking in the first place. I told Mason that I would be happy to help him pay for the master's and PhD program he was supposedly interested in doing, but he never put in the work to do any research into it or apply. Instead, he was obsessed with the idea of becoming a streamer and moving to LA. But Mason never had time to stream or work on building a social media presence. He has literally 2 followers on Twitch, and the last time he streamed was a year ago. I paid for everything: the apartment, our groceries, his medication, his pet fish, all of our dates that I always planned. But despite working crazy hours, I was always the one grocery shopping on my way home and cleaning the dishes and cooking and doing laundry. The only thing he would do consistently was clean his fish tank and turn on the Roomba. But sure, I'm the problem when I tell him to stop piling the trash up 12 inches over the edge of the bin and actually take it out. And I'm the problem when I told him that I was not going to leave my job and pay for us to move to LA and leave my entire family behind, when he's literally done nothing to make his own aspirations come true. Dude sits at home for 50 hours a week in his underwear, eating Takis and playing video games that he isn't even streaming, and expects me to cook dinner as soon as I get home from the hospital. So we had a fight and he broke up with me. Genius move. So I cancelled the lease on my apartment, and I'm staying with my sister while I go house hunting and deleting every trace of that idiot from my life. He's tried calling and texting me, but I'm done with his leeching. I just wish other people could see through his carefully crafted lies, because I've lost 2 friends who are just eating up his sob story. Can't believe I'm such a mean girlfriend who won't be my man's mummy. Well, yeah, that guy sounds like a slug. Honestly, this is a win for OP. I don't think that guy was going to change anytime soon. One commenter says, Wow, you're such an amazing woman to have supported this man so much financially. You deserve someone way better. Maybe it's best you don't marry him. I mean, don't you want someone with more substance and contribution to the living situation? This whole thing sucks. I'm sorry you're going through this. Opie replied, Oh, absolutely, but I didn't think it would always be like this. I was under the impression that he wanted to get his PhD in biology and work professionally in that field until recently. I thought he was genuinely struggling to get interviews and to get accepted into a program. I mean, if I was working super hard and trying to get into a PhD program, I would want my partner to be supportive of me. But in reality, he wasn't working towards that at all. He just decided he didn't want and have to grow up, I guess. Yeah, spot on. He's just a lazy prick. Let's go to the update. So, a while ago, I posted about my ex-fiancé Mason and I breaking up because he wanted to move to LA and be a streamer despite being lazy and having 2 followers on Twitch. Well, through a friend, I have learned of some shocking developments. For starters, Mason is moving to LA in September, so I'm excited to go to our usual haunts and not have to worry about running into him anymore. But the second thing I learned confirmed that he was only using me as a meal ticket. 1 week after our breakup, he came out as gay and officially started dating our mutual best friend, now my ex-best friend, who he always described as like a brother to him. I'll go ahead and say now that I have nothing against gay people. I'm happy for him, and hopefully he can be with someone he has an actual chance of loving sincerely, but to say I didn't have suspicions of him cheating in the last few months of our relationship would be a lie. And now to know that he knew he was gay for a year before we broke up, and he was just riding on my paycheck while likely effing his bro on the side. Well, good news, my STD tests all came back clean, though we haven't had sex in several months before our breakup. Truthfully, I hope Mason can find peace and find what will motivate him, but it sucks that all of the struggle and strife of the last year could have been avoided if he had just been honest about his sexuality and actually stepped up to the plate and took responsibility for his own finances, instead of expecting to be handed life on a silver platter. As for myself, I'm closing on a house next week. I've joined a local tennis league, and I've started dating again, just enjoying myself and seeing what is out there. The house I'm buying will need a few renovations, which I'm excited about doing myself. Life is good, but weird sometimes. Oh wow, I did not expect that update, but honestly, sounds like Opie isn't really too surprised about it. How about you guys? You see that coming? Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers. Am I the a-hole for saying my in-laws treat me like a live-in maid and wanting to move out? I, female 26, and my husband, 27, live with his parents. His father had some health issues and needed some care, and we agreed to move in and help out. Father-in-law is generally doing better now, but there's still a few things he can't do anymore that my husband does now instead. We've discussed moving out. I want to, but my in-laws are very resistant to the idea, stating that there's plenty of room here and they don't know what they'd do without us, etc. While we don't pay his parents to live here, their decision, we pay for groceries for everyone and several household bills, electricity, internet, TV packages, etc. The house is mortgage-free. I also do all their household cleaning and cooking. I arrange and take all their pets to the veterinary appointments too. I do work from home, so this is easier for me, and as I'm able to be flexible. We also pay half of any house modifications and upgrades as, quote, it'll be your house one day. Recently, I have begun to feel resentful of the fact that once they're all done with work, they can come home and relax, whereas I finish work and have to cook and clean and have no help. On the weekends, I spend half of the day cleaning the house while they do what they want. This all came to a head last week. I was really unwell. I felt the worst I've ever felt and wanted nothing more than to sleep. However, once it got around to dinner time, I was woken by my mother-in-law to ask when I was getting up to make dinner. I didn't want to cause an argument, so I just got up and made dinner for them. But as I was in the kitchen struggling not to pass out, the 3 of them sat watching a movie, waiting for me to bring in their food. I didn't say anything at first. I waited until my husband and I were alone to bring up my concerns with the lack of help. My husband apologized and offered to help more, which I accepted,
but the next day was an exact repeat. I had to drag myself out of bed to cook, and once I'd brung in their food, my mother-in-law says, "Oh, you look truly awful. Poor you. Oh, by the way, later, would you mind giving everywhere an extra clean? I don't want to get whatever you have." At which point I accused them of treating me like a live-in maid and not caring about me outside of the services I provide for them. I pointed out that I wouldn't be in the communal areas if I hadn't been dragged out to cook, and that they could have handled one meal themselves. My husband sat there in silence. He thinks I should have brought it up more carefully, at a time when I wasn't so emotional. I agree that I probably should have, but I was sick and stressed. I want to move out, but husband and in-laws are still against it. Nothing has changed with what they expect from me. I got no apology, just silent treatment from mother-in-law for a couple of days. So, am I the jerk? Wow, sounds like your husband and his family are enjoying the free ride. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, but take a good look at your husband. He knew you were sick. You work too, and he just let you suffer. Even with you telling him, he thought you would just keep serving him. Even if you weren't sick, this arrangement is highly unfair to you. Your husband saves money and doesn't need to lift a finger, and your in-laws save money and don't have to lift a finger. Children living with their parents have chores. These adults are so lazy. I'm angry right now. You deserve so much better. Not the a-hole. Also, get out now, with or without your husband. Nothing will change because everyone except you is fine with the situation. No, your husband doesn't care, because if he did, he would have done something about it. Pack your bags and leave. So, you got married, and instead of starting a family of your own, you get to take care of your husband's parents? The exploitation here is outrageous. Sounds almost like you've been set up by all of them, because you have to seriously doubt your husband would have stepped up to do everything that's being done if you weren't a part of the equation by choice, all of which only benefits his parents. Agreeing to move in was your first mistake, but since that's already done and over with, staying in this situation will be your second mistake, and will have far broader consequences for everything pertaining to your marriage. You need to get your own family started. Staying in the situation you are in will surely end your marriage, because eventually you will be tired of being the hired help and not a wife with a home, privacy, and money saved up. Not the a-hole. Okay, now for a few comments from OP. Thank you all for the comments. This is my first post, so I'm not sure if this is the best way to address some of the questions, but here we go. It didn't start off with me doing everything. Before we moved in with my in-laws, my husband and I split everything equally, and that worked great. Once we moved here, I picked up a bunch of the household chores because I work from home and I'm here. It just made sense. Slowly over time, there's just been things added here and there, and that has snowballed into the current situation. I have stood up for myself a few times, but it's an incredibly difficult situation. I'm very aware this is not my house, they are not my parents, and the things I would say to my own parents are not the same I feel like I'd say to his. I moved across the country before we got married. None of my friends are here. Most of my closest friends are my husband's friends' wives, etc. I don't have any family nearby. I've always felt as though if I pushed too hard it would be everyone against me, and I didn't realize before now how toxic of an environment that is. The inheritance of the house isn't something I want or need. This was never supposed to be a long-term thing, and I guess I've just felt pressured to contribute to certain things involving the house because we do live here, and my husband will get the house one day. He's an only child. Overall, it's just been very eye-opening to realize maybe I'm not being as silly as I'm often made to think. All the little things spiral into one big mess, and my husband should be sticking up for me and not contributing to the problem. I've tried talking to him about things several times, and he'll be helpful for a couple of days before resorting back to Mummy's Little Prince. I know I've been needing to get out for a while. I think this is just the push I needed to make such a massive life decision. Thanks, Reddit. One commenter asks, "What exactly is it that your husband does that your father-in-law can't do?" OP says, "At this point, I'd say he's recovered enough that he should be able to do most things, but it's mostly walking his dogs, anything involving any sort of lifting. Nothing that couldn't be done by outside sources if we were to leave." Okay, on to the update. I'm not really sure how to best go about updating, but I guess here is as good as any.
Firstly, thank you to everyone that reached out. I haven't been able to get back to everyone, but I did read every message. Now for the part you all want. After making this post, I started putting my wages into my own bank account. I removed all of my savings from our joint savings account and transferred everything from my own safety account, just in case. This turned out to be the best decision, because I found out I was pregnant roughly 2 weeks after this post. I'd been told at 15 that due to some medical conditions, I'd never be able to get pregnant naturally, so it was a complete shock. Once I had a scan to check everything was okay, thankfully it was, we told my in-laws, and this is what gave me the final shove I needed. Immediately, names were being thrown around, and my mother-in-law started talking about reducing her hours to part-time, an early retirement, so she could be around to raise the baby. This rubbed me completely the wrong way. I didn't want anyone else raising my baby. Colours for the nursery and themes etc. were all being discussed constantly, but never with me or my opinions being taken into consideration, and within a week I felt as though I was just an incubator. The final straw happened when myself, my husband's cousin, female 29, and mother-in-law went shopping. I had been looking at the different kind of breast pumps before being told that I would be bottle feeding, so everyone could help out. I didn't want to cause a scene in the middle of the shop, so I moved on to outfits, but everything I picked up or looked at was either the wrong colour or style or something. I'd picked out one outfit, which would be my first baby purchase, and mother-in-law snatched it out of my hands before I could pay, telling me that it was the wrong sort of outfit. It wasn't gender neutral enough, and if the baby is a boy, like we're hoping, then it's far too feminine. I didn't need to be told what I could and couldn't dress my own child in, nor did I appreciate the suggestion that they would all prefer a boy, let alone being told how I would be feeding my child. So I left. I tried talking to my husband on 3 separate occasions, and he either made excuses or blew me off entirely. I couldn't handle it anymore. I packed my bags and went to stay with my sister for a week. My husband called once and asked me to go home. Once. I made it clear I wouldn't be returning to live in that house, that I would raise the baby on my own if he didn't want to leave, but I would not allow my child to be raised in such a toxic environment. As a big surprise to no one, he stayed put. After that, I got spammed with texts in the family group chat, but I left and deleted them all. I've started the divorce process, and hopefully, as I've saved every disgusting message from either my ex or his family about both myself and my baby, they won't get any form of custody. Although, since I announced the gender, they've all gone quite silent. I now have a small 3-bedroom house. I'm only renting for now while I wait for the divorce to finalise, but it's plenty big enough for the 2 of us. My daughter will grow up surrounded by my family, and plenty of cousins to play with. The house is pretty bare at the minute, as I only got the keys a couple of days ago, but I have time before she gets here to make sure everything is ready. Thank you again for all your kind words. The situation didn't play out how I'd hoped, but I can't help feeling like it's for the best. Yeah, it sounds like Opie's got her head pretty firmly screwed on there. And like she said, after all the context she gave about her ex's family, yeah, it probably was for the best. That mother-in-law was just making me mad, just reading it. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll move on to our next story. Alrighty, this next one was posted on the True Off My Chest subreddit. It was written by user Charming Golf, and it's titled, "First time I dressed up for a double date, and my friend didn't like it." My friend Joel, 20 male, asked me, 21 male, to join him for a double date with Jean, 20 female, and her friend Sam, 19 female. Joel got a date with Jean, but she wanted to make it a double date as she wanted to introduce Sam to the dating scene in a more friendly kind of way. I agreed to it, but Sam wasn't amused by the idea of me being her date, but agreed because she was happy with just the experience. Why? Well, me and Joel are 2 totally different types of guy. He's the charming and athletic guy, while I'm the chubby and more reserved one. Doesn't help I'm balding this early in life. The times I've met her at university has been while I'm wearing the same clothes. I have a set of clothes only for university, sort of like a self-imposed uniform. Every day is different, but I repeat weekly. So, yesterday, I got my hair cut as low as possible without going into shaving, fixed my beard, and I have to say I was looking mighty fine. I got out my brand new clothes.
Now, today we had our double date after 2 p.m. I arrived late, but only by 5 minutes. Joel was texting me like crazy until I arrived, holding a rose for Sam. I'm a bit corny, but I thought it would be a nice gesture. Joel wasn't happy for some reason. Jean looked surprised, but Sam, she smiled widely and her eyes sparkled a bit. We started our date and Sam and I are having a bit of a blast. We decided to go out bowling before going for ice cream and recommendation from Sam. We got along, but not really enough to say I like her more than a friend. Maybe a second date, solo this time, would be nice. As we're hanging out, I could feel glances from Joel and small smiles from Jean. I know Jean is smiling because Sam is having fun, but I didn't know why Joel was so angry with me. After the date, Joel unloaded on me how I was cringe for bringing Sam a rose, that I was there to entertain Sam, not distract Jean from him, that I dressed too formal and too fancy. I was the only one wearing a white shirt, flannel over shirt and jeans with my Converse. He also said I should have stayed home if I was going to act like I did at the date. I just talked with Sam, shared a meal with her, and went to get her favourite ice cream from her favourite store. He was there, and Jean was 100% on board with the ideas. I barely talked with Jean. He had all the playing field for himself. Not my fault Jean was more interested in seeing her friend happy. Geez, Joel may be charming and athletic, but he seems very insecure. Let's look at the comments. Joel is just salty because he expected to put in zero effort and still be considered the catch between the two of you. Tell Sam you had a great time and you would like to, insert her interest here, with her next weekend. Good luck to you. It kind of feels like maybe he was trying to use you to make himself look better. I used to be the fat friend to a few insecure pretty people, and sometimes I felt like I was only invited to lift someone else up, like a fricked up wing woman. The fact that you acted nice and dressed well and looked good is peeing your friend off. Doesn't sound like a good friend to me. Oh, that was me for years. My college roommate could be in oversized sweats and still oozed sex appeal. I was heavy, but whatever the term is for society deeming you a smidge more attractive than average, sorry, I'm crazy overtired. I cannot count the number of times she was furious with me for stealing the attention. I didn't have a hot bod, but I'm smart, interested in others, interesting, have a sense of humour and rarely took myself seriously. She had a hot bod. She was nice but limited her potential, prioritising only her hot bod. It was an interesting few years. He just wanted to be a crap date and use you as the ugly friend so he could be like, yeah, it was a crappy date, but look how attractive I am compared to my friend. Makes me feel like a catch, right? Right? Even if nothing further happens between you and Sam, you just set a bar on things a girl would like from a date. I think he gave her a really nice first date. 1. Care and appearance, check. 2. Thoughtful gestures. Bowling, rose, favourite ice cream place, check, check, check. 3. Easygoing, fun, no pressure, attentive but not overly so, listens, check, 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 check you out. Things ladies don't want is a sulky dude who puts in bare minimal effort. Sounds like he was annoyed that you showed him up on the date. He's probably used to the attention and thought being next to you would make him look better. Think duff. Sorry, just going based off your description. Girls care way more about thoughts and effort than just attractive. That's why you were getting the attention of both girls. Opie replied, I knew from the start he was planning to use me to look better, but I wasn't expecting him to be rude about his date with Jean and blaming it on me. Lol, maybe the only reason Jean agreed to date your friend was so she'd have an excuse to get Sam out on a date with somebody, and Joel is salty about it. Don't worry about it, sounds like you and Sam had a nice time, and Jean is happy that Sam enjoyed herself. Joel is just being insecure. You absolutely should ask Sam to go out solo, even if you decide she's not for you romantically. It sounds like you guys get along well and could be great friends. Opie replies, I think I will ask her out. She mentioned she was into retro gaming and we have an old school arcade close to campus. Okay, that's enough comments. Let's go to the update. A lot of people wanted an update, so here it is. Let's start with my friend Joel. I explained to him what happened and how it made me feel, and he apologised. A bit of a forced apology, but it's been 2 weeks and he's actually changed a bit. I explained that he should be more attentive with his dates, and took it to heart.
He's still the same guy, but now he at least tries to actually connect with his date. Jean, well, not so much. We started hanging out, but I don't know much about what happened with her and Joel, just that it didn't work out. I'll take that. Now, Sam, well, I asked her out for another date, this time a solo date, and she said yes with a big grin on her face. We went to the arcade and we had a blast, maybe too much. That night I returned to my apartment at 3 a.m. and exhausted. That was a night filled with firsts. With that said, we hit it off. I thought we wouldn't click, but after a few drinks at karaoke, it really made her listen up a bit, and we talked for about 3 hours on our second date. Had 2 more dates, and now we are officially dating. I showed her my last post, and she was amused by all of your replies. Oh, there you go. We love a happy ending. Let's look at some final comments. The way this guy had the absolute sweetest, most fun ideas during the date was just perfect. And the second date, he listened to her, remembered she liked retro arcade games, and went to do that on the second date. That guy knows how to date. No surprise Sam was smiling like crazy, and Jean loved watching. Opie is so sweet with his mindset that he's not sure if they'll click romantically, but he'd be happy to be friends with her. Having no expectations gives a relationship a lot of room to grow. You'd be amazed at how much people appreciate that you listened and actually remember what they said. I'm really social at work, and I'll ask how their root canal went, or their kid's birthday or whatever. They're always so touched that I remembered and cared enough to ask. It's funny because in my real life I'm a huge introvert and I don't have any friends. My husband's dog is my best friend right now, but I'm gonna have to let him go soon. Dogs don't live long enough. Lol, mad his wingman didn't fly in formation, while his wingman was the one who actually knew the assignment. And this, my friends, is a prime example of why women roll their eyes at dudes who insist we only want to date an alpha Chad. No, we want to date a guy who puts in effort to how he looks and has the self-confidence to do some things a little corny. Yeah, 100%. I think we can all learn a little bit of something from stories like this. And yeah, I think that comment talking about not having any expectations going into something like this is the best way to do it. I mean, if you do that, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment on both ends. Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend time with my stepsister? Backstory. I'm 15, female. My parents divorced a year ago because my father cheated. He married the affair girlfriend instantly. I think he's a complete jerk, and told the judge I wanted to live with my mum. So I do, but they still said I had to go to my father's every other weekend. I don't want to see him, so I refused to go at first, but it was stressing my mum out with court stuff. I agreed to go as long as his wife is totally hands-off and I can stay in my room and not be bothered, except for one family activity of their choice. So that's where we are. Every other weekend, my dad picks me up, talks at me in the car because I won't talk to him. We go to family therapy where everyone but me talks. I stay in my room until sometimes Saturday when I go out with them to do something fun, and then mostly stay in my room until my mum picks me up on Sunday. I have plenty of stuff to keep me busy, so I'm fine, but everyone else, not so much. A fair wife has kids, 12 female, 9 male, that would go to their dads on my weekends, so I never saw them, but the schedule changed, so now they're there when I am. 9 male is fine. He asks to borrow a video game now and then, but he's polite about it, and gives them back, so sure. 12 female won't leave me the F alone. Anytime I don't literally have my door locked, she's barging in trying to talk to me or wanting to do something. I tried to tell her to leave me alone in a nice way, but last time I just up and told her I never want to talk to her and I'm going to ignore her from now on. She cried about it, a fair wife got mad, my father said she's having a hard time with the divorce too, and I shouldn't take it out on her. I told him he could stop forcing me to visit then, and problem solved. Everyone is mad. My mum says she gets it, but 12 female probably is just looking for someone not her parents to talk to. I just don't see why it has to be me. Gee, it's a bit stupid forcing her to stay at her dad's every now and again. It's pretty clear she doesn't want to, so what's the point? Okay, on to the comments. I feel like the You're the A-hole votes are missing the point. OP doesn't want a relationship at all with the step-siblings, and I believe that's a fair boundary. Her whole life has been upended,
and she mentions that she tried to be polite with the 12-year-old to leave her alone, but 12 female, most likely blessing of stepmom, continued to ignore her request. Also, there is no real timeline given by OP, which makes me think this has all happened so fast that OP hasn't been able to process it without adult interference. OP stated that she would have preferred to stay with mum full time, but is being forced to spend time with her dad. The court system in OP's state really don't give an F about her mental health, and she let her biological dad and stepmom make what her boundaries were, and she kept to them. And now because 12 female is around more often, she is being tasked against her free will to cater to the feelings of another child while ignoring her own. Man, that's a lot for OP. OP is not the a-hole, but OP, I do suggest individual therapy for yourself. It might help you down the road when the court revisits the custody agreement, and they might rule in your favour this time. Not the a-hole. All of this is 100% normal, textbook even. To be clear, your dad is the a-hole, with an honourable mention for your stepmom. Your dad wants a reset, and for everyone to pretend like them screwing up two families was just a thing that happened, and everyone is supposed to pull together and be a family. They did this to you, and to 12 female and 9 male, and your mum, and their dad. I will also bet you that 12 female was told that she's gaining a sister, and won't that be fun? You were her consolation prize. I can see how socialising with her seems like you're approving of the affair and the divorce and the whole mess, which you are not. It's your life, and you certainly don't owe her or anyone anything, but just remember that she is as blameless here as you are. Younger siblings are annoying no matter what. Having younger step-siblings dumped on you at 15 when you're not used to siblings at all really sucks. Okay, now onto a couple edits and the update. Okay, after reading everything and thinking about it for a few days, here's what I'm going to do. A lot of people suggested letting them have it in therapy, so tomorrow I'm turning into an unskippable cutscene in therapy. They want me to talk, so I've got a whole filibuster planned if I need it, and no one else is getting a word in edgewise. My father will be addressed as cheater, and a fair wife as adulteress from now on. If that doesn't get me dropped off back at my mum's, when the other two kids get to the house, they're going to be told everything about the cheating. I'm rewriting the lyrics to a really catchy song to be about my cheating father, so I can sing it at him and get it stuck in his head if needed. Guess we'll see if that works better than ignoring them. Edit 2. It's been an intense weekend, y'all. I dropped all the nukes in therapy. My father nearly got kicked out of the session. He was big mad, but he wouldn't let me go home. As soon as the kids got to the house, I caught 12 female and apologised for snapping at her, and told her I'd just been on edge a lot since her mum and my dad cheated, and that's why everyone broke up. She didn't know, so she started crying and yelled at her mum, and all hell broke loose, leaving out the rest for reasons. But my mum came to get me, the cops got involved, and it turns out a fair wife said she would divorce my father if he brought me back to their house anyway, so at least for right now I can stay at my mum's. I guess what happens next depends on what the court says, but I had to go talk to some people yesterday about what happened, plus I was able to record some of it, so I don't know, I hope it's enough for me to be free. Holy moly, talk about dropping nukes, Jesus. Let's go to the update. I'm free. It's been like a month, and I see a lot of people want an update. I had to do less screen time for a while on doctor's orders, so I'm finally back. I don't want to post an update on Am I the A-hole because I'd have to censor it a lot because of what happened. First, I'm free. I don't have to go back again. Woo! So the thing I couldn't say on my update to my post was things got physical after I dropped the nuclear option. Adulteress went off the rails and pushed me against the wall and slapped me really hard. She has nails, so it ended up cutting my face kinda deep, and the cuts bled like crazy, and I hit my head on the wall. I'd put my phone on record and stuffed it in my sports bra band when I heard them start yelling for me to come downstairs, so I got audio for the whole thing. Cheetah realised they screwed up, I guess, so while he was pulling her off me, I ran and locked myself in the bathroom and sent the recording and a picture of my face to my mum. Mum was the one that called the cops, and she showed up right after they did. They let me go with her, and one escorted us to the ER, and I had to get a few stitches and answer a bunch of questions. My mum is super chill, but she was the maddest I've ever seen her. I had a little bit of a concussion, so I wasn't supposed to read or be on my phone a lot.
I know my mum told the cops she wanted to press charges on adulteress, but I don't know what's happening with that now. My mum says the custody situation is fixed for now. I'm with her full time. Cheetah can ask to visit me, but I don't have to, and adulteress isn't allowed to have any contact with me at all. To which Cheetah said that was fine, because she didn't want me at the house anymore anyway. I had to talk to some social workers and a lawyer, and I think adulteress may be in trouble about her own kids too, but I don't know. So that's what happened. Had to start school with a cut-up face, but my mum's an NP and she said they'll heal up without a scar if we take care of them. And I don't have to see Cheetah anymore. Since the kid's dad teaches at my school, and I have to take a class he teaches before I graduate, my mum met with him and the principal, and I gave her the game 9 male liked and a bracelet 12 female liked with a note to give to him so he could pass them on if he wanted. Probably won't see them again. I'm feeling a lot better now that I can stay home. Now I can get on with life. Wow, that sounded like an action-packed couple of days for OP, but I guess she got what she wanted, so all's well that ends well there. Give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll go to our next story. Okie dokie, this next one's from the True Off My Chest subreddit. It was written by user Capable Elephant, and it's titled, 2 tampons may mean my marriage is over. I, 29 female, have been with my husband, 30 male, for 7 years, married for 4. I've never had reason to suspect he was unfaithful to me, or even remotely dissatisfied with our marriage. He likes to joke that we're still living the honeymoon phase, nearly 5 years and 2 kids in. I wouldn't have questioned that, or him, were it not for a surprise I found in his car last month. When buckling our daughter into her car seat, I noticed something slotted between the cushions. I pulled it out and saw that it was a tampon. This wouldn't have been so unusual had I not had an IUD that had stopped my period for the past year, and I didn't even recognize the wrapper style. I brought it to my husband's attention, and he didn't seem to understand what it was, let alone why I was holding it, until I told him where I'd found it, and why I was almost certain it wasn't mine. He shrugged and said it probably belonged to his co-worker Fiona. It's not uncommon for my husband to carpool to lunch with his co-workers, and we're both fairly close to Fiona and her husband, so I figured it was entirely possible the tampon had slipped out of her purse whenever he had driven with them or offered her a ride. No big deal. I put it out of my mind until we had dinner with Fiona and her husband a couple weeks later. I had sincerely wanted to believe my husband. I just couldn't get over the way it had been tucked in the seat, and how my husband had seemed not to have any regard for it whatsoever. Maybe playing dumb, I don't know. I did something that I now feel kind of crazy for doing. I faked an emergency and asked Fiona if she had any tampons while we were out together. She handed me one almost identical to the tampon I'd found in our back seat, and I breathed a sigh of relief. So the tampon there was probably the same tampon here, and in all likelihood there was an innocent explanation as to why it had been left in the back seat in the first place. I thought I'd seen the last of the out-of-place feminine hygiene products until I found another tampon this morning, this time in my sock drawer. I feel physically ill at the thought of my husband having an affair, and even more nauseated at the thought that the woman might have left these tampons out for me to find. If it was my husband's co-worker, why would she give herself away by offering me one the other night? In any situation, I would want to talk to my husband about this, but I feel too sick and embarrassed to approach him with what I've found. What should I do? Let's see what the comments think. Opie, before you confront your husband, get more evidence. I cannot tell you how many times my dad or my brother just chuck my things in a random drawer because they don't know where they belong, but they still want to help. If the 2 previous tampons, Cars and Fiona's, are not 100% accounted for, I would say there is a chance the one you found in your drawer is one of those. However, it is suspicious. If I were you, before planting a camera that would completely break your husband's trust in the case he's not cheating, I would start becoming more unpredictable with my movements. Come back early from work when you can, or go on a girls' night, but come back way earlier than usual. If he is cheating, chances are you will catch him. I've had a period for 30 years and never put a tampon in a sock drawer. Trust your gut and get cameras. Opie replies, neither have I. I've considered so many explanations for the tampons that wouldn't implicate my husband, but none of them make sense really. I'm terrified to set up a camera if it means confirming what I suspect right now. Has Fiona been over to your house and had time to plant the tampon? Opie replies, she's been to our house many times and vice versa. To my knowledge, she wasn't over any time in the past week, so if she planted that second tampon, she'd have had to find a window of time when I wasn't home. Any time she and her husband visit, we all stay downstairs, and you'd have to go really out of your way to make it to her bedroom, i.e. around our dogs, over the safety gate, past the other bedrooms. Not saying it's impossible, but definitely tricky to do on a quick bathroom break, I would guess. How old are your kids? Could they have found a tampon and put it in a random place? Opie says, 2 and almost 4. Both have a mischievous streak, so I didn't want to rule out the possibility of one of them moving stuff around, but I can't imagine how they'd get their hands on one, possibly 2 random tampons that I'd never bought. Okay, on to the first update 3 weeks later. Contemplating every possible source of 2 tampons has been my personal hell for the past few weeks, but I wanted to share an update. Shortly after posting on here, I told my sister what happened. The tampon in the back seat and the sock drawer, my husband's cluelessness, the tampon from Fiona, and all of the things I suspected but didn't want to believe. We compared tampons, save for the back seat one I had already discarded, and they were a match, just in different absorbencies. I hadn't left either in a place where my husband or daughters would have found them and moved them around. My daughters didn't know what they were or where they'd come from. My sister was convinced it was Fiona, either effing my husband, effing with me, or both. Direct confrontation of either party still seemed like a bad idea, so she suggested inviting Fiona and her husband over for our Labor Day barbecue. Unfortunately, they already had plans. My sister and I agreed that it was too soon for cameras without any other evidence, so it was just a waiting game from there. Watching my husband for any changed behaviour, there was none. Our house for any misplaced or foreign items, there were none, and even the girls for any new friends they might have met. My sister's husband was adamant on this last point, and partly why he was inclined to believe that the tampons were harmless. If anything had been happening in or around our home, he said, it would be nearly impossible to keep it from me and the girls, since my husband was the one taking them to and from daycare, and most other activities during the week. I felt a good bit of consolation in that. It wasn't until my younger daughter, the 2-year-old, came down with something last week that I felt any differently. I wanted to be the one home taking care of her, but my husband insisted that I stay at work while he stayed home with her. I was okay with that. My sister and her husband figured it was a good sign that he would take the time off at a moment's notice, and at that point we were all already beginning to put the tampon fiasco behind us. By the 3rd or 4th day, I was just happy to see a near-healthy child and a husband who was helping see her through it. Toward the end of the week, though, I came home to something strange. The toddler that I'd left that morning in an old PJ set was now dressed in a onesie I'd never seen before, with a tiny clip in her hair. I can't say I have the sharpest memory, but I have a pretty good sense of what my kids wear on a day-to-day basis, and particularly what kind of clothes they'd wear. I'd sworn off the full-length sleep suits with snaps across the front long before we'd ever had our second. The long snaps are just a pain in the arse and a no-go for efficient diaper changes in my opinion. It's just not something I would dress her in, and my husband knows as much. He doesn't plan for or buy the girls' clothes, and he certainly doesn't accessorize them, so I was bewildered, and kind of floored at the thought of someone around our sick child without my knowledge. I didn't think twice, and I went straight to my husband to ask if anyone had been over to see him or the girls. He seemed confused, like before, and asked me why I would think that. It had just been him and the kids all day. I asked him again if someone had so much as stopped by to say hello, and he denied it. He told me to calm down. I might have lashed out and come forward with the accusations right then and there, but our older daughter was in the room, and she sensed something was up. In a calmer voice, I asked him a 3rd time if anyone had been around our children, and my husband swore that the girls hadn't been around anyone but him. He also denied buying new clothes or doing anyone's hair. With our daughter in the room and my emotions all over the place, I decided to leave it. I couldn't make sense of it then, and it hardly seems clearer now, after I've driven myself half crazy with explanations that aren't adding up. And in the comments, Opie says, to answer a couple of questions. My 2-year-old can only string together a couple of words at a time, and when I ask her about her time with Daddy or her clothes and bow, she answers based on the clues I give her. Example, "Who gave you that pretty bow?" And she repeats "pretty bow" back to me or Mama and Daddy over and over. My older daughter, almost 4, was at daycare that morning, and she can't recall anything different from that day. Doesn't remember the PJ change or the hair clip. So my guess is she was changed sometime that morning, but I'm not totally sure. I have a 45-minute commute to work, so stopping by for lunch isn't really feasible. My sister has been kind enough to leave work and drive past a few times here and there, and she hasn't seen anything out of the ordinary. We have a Ring camera at the front door, and I've got the app on my phone with notifications on. Nothing there yet. If anyone has recommendations for more discreet surveillance, I'd be open to it. I'm just the least tech-savvy person, and worry another camera will be easy to detect, lol. Someone asks, "Is it possible one of the hair clips came from daycare?" Opie says, "I could see the hair clip being a possibility, but less likely on the onesie. My younger daughter hadn't been to daycare in days, and if either one of them had returned with something like that before, I would have noticed, especially since it was the kind of onesie I hate with a passion, lol." People comment that they can't wait to find out the ending to this saga. Opie says, "My money's on the Hollywood horror ending. Hopefully dreamed up the dogs too, so I can finally stop picking up their imaginary craps and whatnot." It's good to see Opie can still kind of make light of the situation. Let's go to the final update, 16 days later. After nearly losing my mind over a hair clip in a onesie, I realised I wasn't getting anywhere with the accusations and half-baked guesswork. I'd gotten so absorbed in the paranoia and misery of my situation that I wasn't sleeping, eating, or caring for my kids the way I should have been, and I wasn't getting any answers. So I decided to pull the trigger on the hidden cameras and have them shipped to my sister's house, with my brother-in-law agreeing to help with the install and setup over at mine. Before the cameras were ever delivered though, I got my long-awaited confirmation last week. A Ring notification had alerted me to motion at the front door while I was at work, half expecting to see a delivery person, pet, or lawn care salesman for the 15th time. You can imagine my surprise when I saw a clip of a young woman leading my daughter into the house hand in hand, with my husband and other daughter close behind. The girls were supposed to be in daycare, and my husband at work. The woman, as far as I knew, was living 2 states away with a court order keeping her there. I immediately called my husband and asked him what the F this woman was doing in our house. He didn't answer, so I texted it to him. Even in his stupidity, he probably realised he had messed up by going through the front door, knew I'd gotten the Ring notification, and wanted to delay the inevitable. By the 5th or 6th subsequent call, he did not pick up. The woman on the camera was my husband's sister. As I would come to find out later, she was likely the source of both tampons, the onesie, and the bow. She's also a registered sex offender and a recovering addict, who spent the better part of her adolescence and young adulthood coercing the silence of another one of my husband's family members after she had molested them. I hadn't seen or heard from her in years, and from the way my husband talked about her, I didn't expect I ever would. But here she was, in our house, with our children. Suffice to say, I was livid. It wasn't an affair at all, and still somehow infinitely more disgusting knowing who it was and why all of this had been happening. Apparently my sister-in-law, fresh off another stint in rehab, had wanted to reconnect and make amends with people she'd hurt, and my husband was high on that list. My husband didn't want me to know, or, worse, try and keep her family, our children, away from her, so they'd been meeting in secret, often at our house when I was at work. They would enter through the garage in my husband's car, so the Ring camera at the front door wouldn't tip me off. She spent the night on a weekend I'd been on a business trip and slept in our bed. She babysat our girls on a night my husband told me he'd dropped them off at his parents'. She bought the girls clothes and dressed my youngest in the onesie and bow that my husband had promised on his life I had dressed her in myself. My husband swore this was all in my head, the tampons, the onesie, the bow, and all the rest. He was perfectly content to watch me agonize for weeks over a woman he insisted didn't exist, shrugging off each progressively more unsettling discovery like it was news to him, and telling me I was being irrational. He insinuated that I was experiencing postpartum depression, 2 years after I'd given birth. 4 years after I told him that was one of my biggest fears for motherhood,
was to suffer PPD like my mother had with me, to not be fully present for our babies and be left with a world of guilt and regret as they grew older. He told me I wasn't sleeping enough, that I missed the girls too much, that I needed to take a step back and reevaluate the state of my mental health. I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was my husband and because no other version of events made sense. Now, after a month of this mind F, I have nothing to show for my trust but this pathetic situation and a lot of anger. Call the cops and a lawyer. Already on it. Believe me, we're going scorched earth with this mother effer. Holy crap, and that's that. Yeah, can't say I expected that, to be honest. And yeah, like Opie said, somehow it's worse than him having an affair. Jesus. What do you guys think? I reckon all your predictions were probably wrong there. Or maybe they weren't, let me know. Am I the a-hole for choosing my budget over my boyfriend this Halloween? I need some perspective here. This whole thing is so out of control. I, 28 female, own my house, and my boyfriend, 29 male, moved in January. We had a ton of early money arguments and agreed that we would keep to a household budget. Also, he agreed to pay down his credit card debt. I have more flexibility in my personal spending than he does. Early after we moved in, my boyfriend told me that as a kid, he always wanted to live in one of the houses that were totally decorated for trick-or-treat and handed out full-size candy. Here's where I messed up. I took this as a comment and not a plan. When the end of September came, we went to the Halloween store, and he was under the impression we had savings for this. I didn't know. We go over the monthly budget together, and it was never listed. When he found out that there was no Halloween savings, we had an argument. Afterwards, I talked to friends who all said he had talked about trick-or-treat extensively and how much it meant. I chalked this one up to a misunderstanding on my part. So I came up with $500 my money and went to him with an apology. He decided to buy one big piece, an animatronic clown and some lights. It burned through the $500, plus he put a little on his own credit card. He wanted another big piece and was mad I wouldn't put it on my credit card. I asked if he wanted to put up handmade decorations or spiderwebs, but he said it would look cheap. A few weeks later, we had a fight over candy. He was still stuck on buying full-sized bars. We easily get over 250 trick-or-treaters, and I said we just don't have that much money. So we got the bulk bags of good small bars. I also had these little colouring books for the allergy and diabetes kids. Jump forward to Halloween. Early kids show up and he's letting them grab handfuls. I remind him we have a ton of trick-or-treaters coming, and he got really annoyed. I'd ordered a pizza for us, so I get it and go inside for about 10 minutes. By the time I came back out, the trick-or-treat bowls were empty. He had been dumping a third of a bowl in each kid's bag and had given out all the colouring books to whatever kids came along. He told me that I'd have to go run out and buy more candy on my credit card. I said I wasn't going to do that, and it wasn't my fault he just handed out 20 pounds of candy. He started yelling right there in front of the kids, and I told him to come inside. He responded that he wasn't stopping trick-or-treating even if there was no candy. I told him to have fun with the clown and went inside. He came in 15 minutes later. Then he demanded that I leave for the night so that he could clear his head. He argued it was fair because I'd already eaten and it was my fault that trick-or-treat was ruined because I'm cheap. I handed the rest of the pizza at him and refused. He left and went to a friend's house, and I guess they spent the rest of the night drinking, handing out trick-or-treat candy, and texting me how awful and cheap I am. Am I the a-hole? Geez, he sounds like he's got some anger issues. This seems like such a small issue to get so heated over. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. It sounds like he isn't able to financially support himself. You already support him financially. You do more in the sense of organisation, responsibility and planning, and he full expects you to realise his dreams without having to lift a finger. Please tell me this guy at least does half the chores. Not the a-hole, and you need to run from this man. Making fun of how cheap you are when he's living in your house that you own? Absolutely not. Tell him he can get the F out. Who is he to tell you to leave your own home? I'm livid for you, girl. You need a man, not this child. So he manipulated you into spending $500. You didn't mess up. There were no savings for that and he knew it. If he has credit card debt and is spending like that,
He clearly has financial issues. Then he tries to bring you down with him. After the way he treated you, and trying to kick you out of your own house, I'd think long and hard before taking him back." Opie adds more in the comments. "A lot of the debt is understandable. He spent part of his childhood in foster care, and his parents kicked him out when he was 18 with nothing really. He went into debt early to pay for his basic needs. Never really learned how to have financial literacy. Only when I pointed it out did he start to pay more than the minimum on his debts and start to work his way out of it. He had a really toxic childhood, and this is his first real stable situation. Apparently trick-or-treat was the time he sort of got to see clean and stable homes, and he got more to eat out of that candy than he did at home. Having this big display and to-do was a sign for him that someone had made it. I really didn't understand how much it meant to him, but his friends are on me about it." One commenter asks, "Why are you with this guy? Does he pay anything resembling rent? Has he ever shown any signs of financial responsibility?" Opie replies, "He makes me laugh. And yeah, after we sort of had a drag-out fight over finances early on, he has paid his half into the household fund every month, budget covering everything that is communal, mortgage, utilities, etc. I have my own money and he has his. We earn similar, but he is working on debt. He ends up having less personal money than I do. After we had an argument first month, I set up a monthly house budget that just covers communal things, and he has been contributing his half to it since, so half mortgage, utilities, etc. Because so much of his money is going to debt, I have more flexible personal budget, and I put money into savings. But yeah, financially he pulls his weight, and he spent the summer being compulsive about having a perfect lawn, so it's not like he's useless around the house." About the candy. In my town, if you have non-candy options, you can put a sign in your mailbox so that families with kids who might have issues with candy know it's safe to stop there, literally doing what is asked by those families, and I don't ask why they aren't taking candy. It's just there when they ask for something else. Alrighty, let's go to an update. 3 months ago, basically the whole internet told me to break up with my boyfriend. 2 days ago, I finally ended it. I posted in Am I the A-hole in early November about something that happened with my boyfriend. He had spent a ton of money on Halloween decorations and blamed me for ruining trick-or-treat. I wasn't sure where to post an update, so here I am. Everyone, and I do mean everyone online, basically said I was in the right and said some truly dire things about my relationship. I won't lie, there was so much anger towards him, I sort of shut down. When I started getting requests from actual news sources for more information, I just basically logged out and just decided to forget anything ever happened. We met the next day as he had spent a few nights at a friend's house. I said that for things to continue we needed couples counselling, and I expected him to set up the whole thing. He was surprisingly open to this and said he would work on it, and that's where things started to unravel. Our mutual friends had been really in his corner, being me out, but I found out the story that he had told them was way off from the truth. In his version, I prevented any money for Halloween, and had gone cheap on trick-or-treat candy, and was only handing it out to children I liked. Once they sort of heard my version, backed up with pics and receipts, support went to me. In fact, his friends have been giving him a lot of ribbing about how he acted, which my now ex hates. In the meantime, we had been working on getting us counselling, but found that getting therapy on his insurance meant month-long waiting lists, so instead, he came up with this couples coach who was religious. I'm not religious and wasn't thrilled by this, but figured it was better than nothing. Our first meeting was only 3 days after I posted. One funny thing that came up was that my ex immediately handed over a printout of the household budget, and the coach praised it. But the coach thought my ex was the one who wrote it, and that I was failing to follow it. So what followed was this weird thing when my ex wanted all the praise, but also wanted the coach to badmouth the budget because my ex hates it. It took the better part of the first session to explain to him the actual situation, and the coach was weird about the fact that it was the woman in the relationship dictating money, even though he liked the budget itself. This was a lot of issues later, actually. The next day, one of our friends found the Reddit post and sent it to my ex. All hell broke loose with him saying that I had betrayed his trust. Our next couples coaching session was all about that, and honestly I felt terrible for airing his dirty laundry. The coach and my ex both crap on me a ton in this time that I had publicly humiliated my ex. Obviously I'm updating, so I don't care about embarrassing my ex anymore. He has this username and will probably read this. Whatever. One thing that was seemingly positive at first about the coaching was the coach pointed out that my ex had never had the ability to have holiday traditions because of his upbringing. I genuinely felt bad about this, and rolling into Christmas made a huge attempt to incorporate him into my family's traditions and to ask if there's anything he wanted to do. He responded by crapping all over my family's traditions, and his only contribution was to suggest something really extravagant that would have cost a fortune. I swear he only did this just to badmouth me when I said no. This was all bookended by our twice-a-week visits to the couples coach, who I increasingly hated. He would go through super religious prayers and having issue with us living together before marriage. Neither my ex or I responded positively to this, but my ex would get really into it when the coach would talk about more misogynistic men as head of household stuff. When I said I'd prefer moving to a regular therapist, my ex said I was undermining his work, getting us help. There's a dozen little things that happened in there where I should have broken up, but last week was the real final straw. Ever since my ex found the post I'd made on Reddit, he has been obsessed with going through my phone. Because of my career, I wouldn't let him. I have a lot of emails and accesses on my phone that's sensitive information in regards to work. I made a compromise that he could ask who I was texting, etc., and I'd show him at any point. This wasn't good enough. I don't know how he got into my phone, but he went through it fully and started raging out that I was keeping things from him, but none of it had any relation to him. Like I had a group chat where we were planning a wedding shower for a friend. He's only met this friend in passing. He knew I was helping plan it, but was mad that I hadn't let him know every little detail. Specifically, we were surprising the bride by flying in her aunt, who she rarely sees. I wasn't contributing to this financially, I just knew about it, and somehow my not telling him that specific little thing was keeping secrets. We were still fighting over this when we went to a party with friends. Apparently, in digging through my old chats, he found where a friend of mine had talked to me in confidence of a tragedy she went through. Only her husband and sisters were really in the know. My ex was drunk and started talking about this loudly about this to her, with her husband right there. Her husband told her to shut up, and my ex basically got all superior about knowing things and there not being secrets. It was very close to being a fight. I told him not to come back to my house after that, and he seems really shocked we broke up. I'm still numb about all of this, but yeah, him? Never again. Ah, classic. Another story of a guy who treats his girlfriend like crap and then shocked when she breaks up with him. What an idiot. Let's go to the last update. It ended the way it began, with an animatronic clown. So look into my history if you're interested in my past with my now ex-boyfriend, but here's the cliff notes. My boyfriend lived with me, he hated the concept of a budget, he managed to convince me to give him a ton of money for Halloween decorations, and he spent the whole lot on an animatronic clown. Then he basically wrecked the trick-or-treating event, told me to leave my own house, and gaslighted me afterwards. I posted online, we went into therapy, then he goes and reveals my friend's miscarriage, so I break up with him. So, some details since my last post. I now have therapy, in quotations, because it since has become evident he picked the life coach he did because their website shows some really misogynistic views. It seems he was hoping that they would back him up on controlling me. I'm now in real therapy, don't worry. Secondly, my friend has made up with me for the whole debacle of his reading our old conversations. She's helping me a lot, has read through these posts, and has given me permission to say that the secret he outed was that she had a miscarriage. Now onto the latest. The ex finally came by to pick up his stuff about a week ago. He's hemmed and hawed about this now since he left. Initially, he only took the bare essentials and had dragged his feet. I think he thought I'd take him back. Finally, he shows up with a friend to get his stuff. Every single thing he pulls out of the house, he is snidely telling me that I'll miss having it. But before he moved in, I had a fully furnished house. His contributions were either things that only he used or stuff that I had duplicates of. Except for the clown. When that finally came up, he was angry. He said that he was now living out of his friend's bedroom and doesn't have room to either store it or to display it at Halloween. So he wanted me to pay him back for it. I pointed out that I'd paid for it in the first place. He has this whole alternate scenario where I'd given him the money to buy it as a gift, therefore it was his money and I had to repay him. An argument broke out, he stormed out with his stuff and left the clown. I've sold it for $200 and look forward to visiting it in a proper long-term Halloween setup. Wow, that guy sounds like a piece of work, honestly. I can't figure out how blokes like this get girlfriends in the first place. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one and we'll go to our next story. Alrighty, this next one was written by user Impossible Stuff and it's titled, Stepdad Unearthed My Time Capsule. Hello all, this is my first post, so bear with me. Here's the backstory. When the clock hit midnight on the year 2000, all the members of my family and extended family were there. We all signed a paper and each put something into a time capsule. Shortly after, my grandfather passed away from a brain tumour. I was 9 at the time and my grandmother and I buried the time capsule behind the headstone at the cemetery. She told me to take it out in 10 years and have a look. No one else was there for that. I don't remember much of what was put in there because I was so young. 2010 came and went and I didn't feel like taking it out yet. Not much had happened in 10 years, so I wanted to wait longer. Fast forward to 2022. My grandmother died after living a long and full life. I disclosed to my family about the time capsule when we were at the graveyard, and it seemed like my stepdad took interest. Parents were divorced and Mum married him in 2008. I confirmed it was still there by poking a small wooden stake into the ground and poked around till I hit something solid. Decided it was still too early and wanted to wait longer. Today I got a picture in the family chat showing him unearthing the time capsule. My mum and him took a trip to the cemetery. I was ticked and still haven't responded. I don't know how to go about this. I don't know if I should tell him how much it meant to me to be the one to take it out, or should I just brush it off? It's one of those things I think about every once in a while and get more excited as time goes on. I don't even remember what I put in there. Could have been a toy car or whatever, but I don't know. Am I a jerk for being upset about this? Thank you in advance. What the hell? Definitely not the a-hole. Who does that? Like seriously, it's not even his family. I don't know, that's just me. What do you guys think? Let's check the comments. You're not the a-hole for having the feelings that you have, but could become an a-hole depending on how you handle and express those feelings. From here on out, I'd focus on what do you want to get out of the situation now. Do you want to see everything that was in the time capsule? Or would you like them to re-wrap it up, and you can have the surprise later? OP replies, Thank you for your reply. I agree with you. My stepdad and I have a great relationship and he's been there for me. I don't think he intended to cause harm or anything. Just think curiosity got the better of him. Yeah, I'd like to see everything in there now. What's done is done and I don't feel like turning this into a mess will make anything better in the long run. I don't want them to rebury it. I think I was more excited to go there eventually and unearth it myself. It's in another state. Okay, now onto the update. Hello all. I figured I'd post an update on what transpired. To those who didn't read my first post, basically I buried a time capsule with my grandma 23 years ago after my grandpa's death. A year ago when she passed, I disclosed to my family about the time capsule and how I wasn't ready to take it out yet. A few days ago, I got a text with a picture showing my stepdad exhuming my time capsule from behind my grandparents' headstone. I was a mess for a few days. I was trying to figure out why it bothered me so much that he did that without my permission. There is so much hurt going on recently in the world, and this was such a small thing in the big picture. But I had been waiting for that moment most of my life, and it was taken away from me. I'm a very calm person, and it takes a lot to get to me. I don't know if it was the sum total of stresses in life and anger that I've bottled up over the years, but I was honestly considering calling off Thanksgiving with them over this. Crazy. So basically, I sent a text to my stepdad saying that I was very upset that he took it out of the ground without my permission. Instead of apologizing, he said he thought I would be happy that he found it and was just trying to locate it for me. I knew exactly where it was since I was 9, and I never asked for help finding it. I told him that I was not happy about it at all, and that it meant a lot to me, and the moment has been ruined. He then told me that he'll put it exactly where it was, and in his words, no harm, no foul. He didn't apologize at this point, so I decided to not reply and continue stewing. I just got a text from him saying that he sincerely apologizes for what he did, and that his intention was to map out exactly where it was for me to find in the future. When he took it out of the ground, he found that the seal had corroded and sand and dirt was inside, so he was going to take it out because it had been compromised. I need to let go of the feelings I had over this. I have no idea why it brought me from 0 to 10 so fast. I'm going to forgive him and let go. I'm only hurting myself and my relationship with my stepdad by blowing this up. However, I will not be disclosing anything like this to him again. My sweet wife was so supportive and said that we can make our own time capsule for our daughter, born this year, to dig up years from now. That made it much better for me. Thank you all for your support. Okay folks, and that's the end of that one. Props to OP for being able to let go of that. I can understand why you'd be mad. I would be. And I honestly reckon the stepdad's excuse is BS. I found tickets for a cruise that my boyfriend got me. This gift has cemented for me that this relationship is over. I need to let this out without getting pushback from family and friends who think his gift is romantic, so I'm using a throwaway. My birthday is coming up in a few months, and 3 days ago I found out what my birthday present was, which are tickets to a cruise. His sister spilled the news thinking I would be excited, and I'm not. We live together and I found the gift and know it's for me. I sound so ungrateful, but I'm not. This gift just proves to me that things will never change. The first thing is this gift isn't for me. I do not like cruises because I get really bad seasickness and nothing I do helps. I also told him what I wanted to do for my birthday, which was go to a Ren Fair festival on my birthday. I've already taken the week off from work for it in preparation to go to this fair. I have purchased tickets and I'm saving month to month so that I have spending money without it affecting finances at home. Why would he book tickets the same time as the time I took off to go to this festival? Also, this cruise wasn't cheap at all, so it's basically wasted money because I'm not going. I'm so annoyed. I've told him time and time again that I don't feel like he listens to me, that I feel like he just gets me things by thinking about what's best for him or what he would like. It's not only gifts. He makes decisions based on what he thinks is best, and I just can't deal with it anymore. I love him, but I'm so done, and before anyone says I didn't talk to him, or to talk to him about this, I have, repeatedly. This has been a recurring conversation in our 2.5-year relationship. The next thing to do is talk this out and end things. Edit. I appreciate the comments and concern about cheating, but I know the gift is for me because it was in really nice packaging that said, "Happy birthday" and my name, and the bag had like cruise ship related items and possible excursions. The effort he went to, it made me sad because that means he could have put in a little effort about the things I like. If he had even just gotten me a ticket for the Ren Fair festival, or accessories from online, or even a piece of an outfit that had to do with Ren Fair, it would have made my entire month. It would have meant that he listened and got me something that interested me. I'm talking to him tonight, and I'm not even annoyed anymore. I feel nothing about this. Alrighty, on to the comments. Well, this is kind of the risk of these behaviours. They will continue until you opt out. It's evident this gift is for him, and more about what he feels like doing. Because on what planet would you gift someone they won't be able to enjoy? That's the thing about other people. They'll encourage keeping the peace, not taking into account how it affects you, as long as everyone else experiences as little discomfort as possible. I would not theme my diabetic family members' party Candyland and exclusively serve candy, soda and alcohol. I would be putting them in a situation to be thankful, even though it's something they cannot enjoy, or be ungrateful, when in reality, putting them in the situation at all was a selfish decision. I think the fact that he knows you have plans for the day of your birthday and has deliberately double booked you after the fact is a much bigger red flag than the obviously crappy present. Happy birthday, babe. Here's your gift. What do you mean you're not going? Seasickness? You can take some pills or something. Ren Fair? I totally forgot, but these are so much better, and they cost so much money, so we just can't waste them. Of course I didn't get them just so we couldn't go to Ren Fair. I feel like you're really ungrateful when I'm doing a really nice thing. He isn't a forgetful dope. He did this intentionally. You deserve better. Hope his single ass gets to experience some rough seas on his solo trip. Have fun at Ren Fair. Alrighty, straight to the update. The day I wrote my post is the day I ended things with my ex. When he came home, I basically said I found the tickets for the cruise and I asked him who they were for.
He said they were for me for my birthday, and I ruined the surprise. I asked him why did he get me tickets for a cruise when he knew that I get seasick, and also when he knew that I'd been preparing for a Ren Fair festival for a couple of months. He said that he always liked cruises when he went on them, and he thought that I could push through it with patches or some other remedy, because it was a really expensive cruise. He continued talking, but to be honest, I spaced out because I just realised how much this man didn't care about me. He bought cruise tickets, completely disregarding what I had planned, how I would feel, and what I wanted to do, all because he liked them. Like, F my birthday, F what I want, F how sick I get. He likes cruises, so we should do that. I think he realised I wasn't speaking or excited because he asked me what was wrong, and I broke up with him. He was shocked and angry, and he asked why. This isn't the exact wording, but I said something like, "It's because I've realised how much you really don't care about me, and that you're always willing to put your wants over mine every time it suits you, even on my birthday." He started to argue and wanted to talk about it, but I was just numb and went to bed on the couch. After 2 hours of trying to speak to me, he left me alone. I woke up the next day and got ready for work. I oddly felt fine and he wanted to talk, but I just said I'm done, and if he wanted to talk about the apartment or what we would do about the lease or anything regarding the end of the relationship, I'm okay with that. I told him I'm not changing my mind about this, and for me, this relationship is done and I just want to split amicably. While I was at work that day, I had free time and I wrote down every instance I could remember just in the last 6 months of him choosing his wants and needs over mine. It was nearly 3 pages front to back, and I didn't even realise how much I let go of because he didn't want to do it. When I went home and he tried to talk again, I gave him the list and I explained what it was. He left me alone the rest of the second night. He's still not accepting the breakup. He wants to do couples therapy now or even go on a break because he realises how much he has done, but nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not trying to be mean or harsh to him, but I don't want to give him false hope. I also feel weirdly okay, but also numb at the same time. What I have to deal with now is breaking the lease, which he isn't willing to do because he thinks we can move past this. So I'm going to talk to the leasing office and see my options. At least I have my birthday to look forward to as I deal with a relationship ending and having to find a new place to live. Yeah, no surprises he's still arguing and not accepting the breakup. He's still not listening to her. Jeez, it's frustrating, isn't it? Anyway, that's the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Either way, let's move on to our next story. Alrighty, same subreddit. This one was written by Agreeable Ask, and it's titled, "I have a backup plan. Before my boyfriend started dating me seriously, he knew this. Now that he is my fiancé, he wants me to get rid of it. I'm not doing it, and I don't understand why I should. I have always had a backup plan. My backup plan includes a place to live, money for general expenses, and a rainy day fund. It's more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. I like having it, and I've explained to previous partners that I have one, and I let them decide if they're okay with it. My fiancé knew this before he started dating me exclusively. He knew that if we ever got married, I would require a prenuptial agreement and a request that this backup plan stays intact. A couple days ago, he told me he wasn't okay with this plan any longer. I don't think that's fair. He comes from a wealthy family, and the prenuptial agreement protects him, and I should have something that protects me. I'm actually finding myself really angry about this because I was an open book about this every step of the way, and now I feel like he's changed his mind. He says that having this plan makes it seem like I will leave him while I think it protects me. I'm annoyed because it's not fair to me to change your mind when you knew my expectations from the very beginning. Edit. I put this post up because I was annoyed that he essentially told me this on Friday, minutes before our meeting with our lawyers. I was and am annoyed, but he follows my Reddit account, so throw away. I don't tell every person about this plan, only ones that I've gotten serious with, which is a grand total of 2. The backup plan is complicated, but it doesn't screw him over in any way. It protects me, and I would be paying for the property and still contributing the same amount that he would be to our household expenses and savings. Now that he knows what the plan entails in depth, he wants to just not sign anything on both sides. This is a bad idea. I would be unprotected, but so would he, and he has way more than I do. He feels like I have one foot out the door. I don't. I love him, but my dad is a divorce lawyer, and from what I've heard and seen, better to protect yourself and not need it than no protection and then have to pick up the pieces. Both of our parents agree that a prenuptial is needed. I am not getting rid of this plan. There is not anything that would make me compromise about this.
I told him he has a decision to make because I'm not changing my mind. Yes, I told him about this post as more people have seen it. Rather he finds out about it from me than someone else or just being on Reddit. This sounds complicated. Let's go to the comments. Every lawyer that I've listened to has said a good prenup protects both parties. Tell him it's non-negotiable. He has a backup plan and family wealth. He has no claim or right to your money and your protection. He is displaying why you have that backup plan in the first place. Having a financial or living space backup plan is smart. Fair would be for him to ask to be allowed to build one as well. Also, you having a plan B is also not suggesting you will leave him. It simply means you can, which means making sure you don't have one is his idea of making sure you can't leave. He wants to trap you instead of making sure you always want to stay. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Trapping you instead of making sure you want to stay. Well put. Alright, let's go to an update. I'm making an update because I had people keep messaging me asking about it. I had to split it into 2 parts. It won't let me post as one. When I made the first post, I was angry because I felt like I had been deceived. I was honest with my fiancé from the start, and I felt like he had pulled the wool over my eyes. But I understand his perspective now, and he understands mine. It never crossed our minds to break up, and I think we both needed some time to think. I understand this is Reddit, but please don't bash my partner. I understand I was vague, but to call him names and try to tear down his character when you don't know him is not okay. I also don't know why I'm clarifying things. It's honestly a little therapeutic. To clarify some things about my backup plan, I called it that because I started it at 25. I've had it for about 10 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. It is an emergency savings account, another savings account, and a property I own. I use my main job to pay for my household expenses with my fiancé and also to fill my main savings. I have a trust, but also investments as well, but my dad helps me handle those. The emergency savings is only money from additional contract jobs I take on in my profession. The other savings account is only money from rental income, some of which I use to maintain the property and pay my dad back. The property is a multi-family home and I rent out all the units but one. The property was bought by my dad when I was 24 and I've been paying him back the purchase price with no interest for a couple of years now. The property is worth a great amount now, but my dad would only accept what he paid for it from me. He took out a loan for me because he wanted me to be set up financially. I'm paying him back even though he already paid the loan off a long time ago. There's no way I would be able to buy that property now, or even 5 years ago since house prices have skyrocketed where I live, and I'm grateful that my dad did that for me. I will finally pay off the loan in about 8 months, and before I get married. It's taken me so long to pay my dad back because he insisted that I prioritize setting myself up financially rather than paying him back. The property is also a 15-minute walk to the nearest hospital and close to the city centre, so it's easy to rent out to medical students. I keep one unit open because of events. I make a killing when there are events or when big artists tour, and 2 examples are the recent Beyoncé and Taylor Swift tours, where I made a lot on the days they were in my city. If there are no events where I think I can make a good amount, I rent it out to travel nurses in 3 to 4 month periods once or twice a year, but realistically, there could be a couple weeks or 2 to 3 continuous months during the year where it sits empty. Overall though, I make a substantial amount from this property. I can't take credit for this strategy because my dad is the one who helped me set up the apartments and manage it. My partner and I come from vastly different economic backgrounds. His family has generational wealth and he can't remember a time they didn't. I grew up firmly middle class until my parents' divorce, and then it was a struggle for a while. His home life was relatively stable with a mum and dad. On the other hand, my dad tried his best, but my birth mum made my childhood tumultuous, both emotionally and mentally. The difference with how we think about money became very noticeable when we were planning our wedding. We had been discussing what type of flowers we would like, and then I started talking about the budget, and stated that I thought 30 to 40k was good overall to pay for a wedding, and an amount where we could easily afford it. He thought I meant 30 to 40k for flowers, and he and his parents didn't budget the amount, and just said okay. I clarified what I meant, and I would never ever pay that amount for just flowers. When it comes to the plan, my fiancé knew about it as soon as we were exclusive. I don't agree with people saying I shouldn't have told him. To protect my assets in the prenuptial agreement, I had to. I also told him because I felt he deserved to know. As we got more serious, especially with marriage, I told him more after talking to my dad and finding out what was okay to say so that he understood the extent of the plan. The reason I kept saying the backup plan was complicated was due to the prenup my dad came up with. It is very long and protects me very well, and my fiancé was, in his view, not prepared for the extent of it. My dad and I went to this extent due to what he had seen people do in divorces, but also mainly due to his divorce that affected us both. It didn't help that I further joked that my dad tried to cover for any loopholes, including asking his associates to look over the document and revising it if one was found. What I saw as protection, my fiancé saw as me having an out since my dad went to such an extent. The short part of it is that my fiancé was insecure about it. He grew up with a dad as the breadwinner, and he was raised with this idea that he should be a provider, and my plan rattled him because it showed him that, financially, I didn't really need him. He told me he didn't realize how much of himself he had tied into this provider role, and felt extremely insecure because he didn't know what he now brought to the relationship. When he found out about the sometimes empty unit, he felt more uneasy because he, even though I have and will always have a job, wanted and planned to take care of me. His idea of scrapping both prenups was his way of trying to say that he trusted me and that I should trust him. If he was willing to go without a prenup knowing I could get a substantial amount of his assets, then it would show me that he would never try to hurt me financially or otherwise. I told him I saw it at the time as extremely manipulative due to him doing it before we met with the lawyers, and he apologized because he honestly just panicked. Now for part 2 of the update. I explained the reasons I wanted a prenup. The first was because I was with him when his brother got a divorce, and to put it nicely, the brother's ex-wife financially got eviscerated. I'm not going to talk about their relationship, but financially, she just kept being taken back to court over and over until she said she couldn't afford a lawyer anymore. From the way his brother bragged about it, she wasn't left destitute, but she paid a significant amount in legal fees and left with a far smaller settlement. His family would have bankrupted her because they had the wealth to wait her out. They could have gone to court forever, and they had a prenup. His brother's divorce was never on his radar as a reason why I was so persistent about the prenup. Basically what I said was there was a disparity in wealth here, and I knew he would never do this to me, but I would feel better protected with one. The second reason is that though my dad is a divorce lawyer and upper middle class now, he went through a pretty bad divorce with my birth mum, and I witnessed it for 3 years. My dad is first generation, married young and had no prenup. What I saw from 9 to 12 was my birth mum, I no longer consider her a parent, completely try to annihilate my dad, and she didn't care that her child's well-being was on the line. She didn't care what financial damage she did, even to herself, as long as my dad suffered. I'm talking wiping out savings, taking loans and maxing out credit cards, getting tickets and getting the car towed by parking in an incorrect place and leaving the car to accumulate fees. She called CPS, said my dad was a pedophile, and turned on me when I wouldn't back up her lies, and all of this financially devastated my dad for years, during and after the divorce. We were struggling for years, and I think people don't realize how quickly you can go from stable, even upper class, to nearly homeless or homeless. People don't realize, if you have never been in that position before, how an ugly divorce not only devastates people financially, but also socially and professionally. My dad lost clients and lost income, and it took many years to rebuild it back. We only survived because my grandmother on my dad's side sold her home. I told my fiancé that I basically went from having a parent who showed me love for 9 years to a person who hated me and decided to destroy 2 people, my dad and me, because a marriage ended. There was no way to stop her, and a prenup could have stopped a lot of the financial damage. I again told him I knew he wouldn't do this to me, but I needed him to understand where I was coming from. Also, if anyone reading this says I'm damaged from this and should have been in therapy from age 9, I know, but it's hard to pay for therapy when you're poor. It is the last priority over having a roof over your head and food and basic necessities. I did get into therapy when I was 19. My fiancé and I talked over several days, and any time he had a question or needed clarification, I answered it.
I didn't realize how much seeing the extensive prenup affected him, and he didn't realize why I was so insistent on it. Overall, he knows that though I love and trust him, that I have to protect myself, and he should too. He knows why I'm insistent on signing a prenup, but also knows that I'm choosing to be with him based on who he is as a person, and not what he can provide for me. I now understand why he felt insecure, and I've tried to alleviate that, and I'm constantly reassuring him of the reasons I'm with him. I also asked him to come see the property and unit with me, and he was really excited about that. I told him that I don't plan on us breaking up ever, and I have a plan for leaving the assets to our future children. Finally, I really see how, when it comes to people he loves, he leads with emotion, while I'm more logical, so we both are going to try to be more mindful of that as we move forward. We both finally signed the prenups, and his only stipulation was to stop calling mine a backup plan, and instead call it a "I'm never going to need this plan." We are good, and I'm glad this happened because it showed both of us that we need to work on our communication more outside of our cancelling. We are going to keep planning our wedding, and I'm excited to begin this next part of our lives together. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that one. Good ending all in all. Yeah, I think obviously it's very smart to have a backup plan of some sorts. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day. Cheers. Am I the a-hole for misleading my cousin and destroying his marriage? Throwaway for anonymity. There's some real weird drama in my family, and I feel like I'm going insane. So, here's the background. My family is a little unusual. There are 3 adults and 2 children. The adults are me, my wife, and another woman best described as my wife's platonic life partner, and also my very dear friend. I'll call the partner Sally. Sally has lived with us for 20 years. The kids call her Ma. We live in a 4-bedroom house, and Sally and the kids each have their own bedrooms. Sally is aromantic and asexual. She and my wife love each other very much, but platonically. Sally is like a sister to me. I cannot overstate how incredibly platonic her relationships with both of us have always been. We're all very happy together. I've been super glad we have her since we have the kids. Parenting is so much easier when you have a numbers advantage. My cousin Dave has been married to his wife Mary for something like 15 years. They have 2 kids. Dave talked Mary into opening the relationship about a year ago, and now they're getting divorced because he's struggling to find anyone willing to date him. Mary isn't, and he's incredibly peeved about it, and it's destroying their relationship. And by it's, I kinda mean he's. He's jealous and resentful and making that her problem. And also, now mine, because he says it's my fault. According to him, he thought it would totally work great because my family make polygamy and open relationships look easy. Which, what? Setting aside that Sally's relationship with both my wife and me are platonic, there's no open relationship in our household. Sally and I each get a weekly date night with my wife. I take the kids on her night, and she takes them on mine. I did say parenting is easier with the numbers advantage. I think my wife and I have significantly more quality time together than we would if it was just the 2 of us. When the kids can't sleep, they go to Sally, so my wife and I are never disturbed after we go to bed. Sometimes Sally and I go to games together, and my wife takes the kids then because she's not into sports ball. No one in our house is dating anyone from outside it. These are committed relationships that are, to all intents and purposes, exclusive. None of us has ever mentioned seeing anyone else. Even if we were, which again we're not, I don't see how that would make me responsible for him treating Mary terribly because he's jealous. Somehow he was apparently convinced that he and his beer gut would get all the girls, but no men would be interested in a charming, kind woman who keeps herself in reasonable shape and bakes the best cupcakes you'll ever taste. I'd have dismissed this out of hand, but my aunt, his mother, and like 6 other family members agree that I'm the a-hole, and have been insisting I should apologise to my idiot cousin and help him talk Mary into closing the relationship and staying with him. I like Mary. We've been friends for 20 years and she's a good person. Also, friends with my wife and Sally and a wonderful aunt to my kids. Given the choice between her and Dave, I'd keep Mary in the family along with her kids. Someone in my family is insane here. Is it me or them? Who's the a-hole?
Honestly, it just sounds like Dave's looking for someone else to blame because he's too much of a coward to face up and admit that he made a mistake. Let's look at the comments. All the consenting adults in your household are happy. You just keep it that way. Good for you. If consenting adults in another household are not happy, it's none of your business, and it's none of anyone else's business to impose fixing that on you. I would just keep pushing the nothing to do with us line and insisting on privacy. I really can't help with talking to Mary about either open relationships or divorce, because I'm not in an open relationship and not getting divorced. As for apologising to Dave, I'm sorry, he has some weird sexual fantasies about me, and has blown up his marriage because he wanted to sleep with other women. Not the a-hole, and your cousin Dave learned a hard lesson many men have learned. They grossly underestimate how attractive their partner will be, and grossly overestimate how attractive they will be when they beg to open a marriage. I've read many stories on here that end like Dave's. She goes along to keep the marriage lively, and finds she's quite the prize for others, while border boy gets left behind in the dust. Makes me laugh out loud every time. You had zero to do with Dave thinking he was going to get laid left and right and getting a rude surprise instead. He made that mess of a bed and he can lay in it. Everyone in the family pointing fingers at you is out of line. Tell them to shut the F up and back off, or they'll never see or hear from any of you again. Keep in touch with Mary though, she sounds lovely. Okay, onto an update. So far, so stupid, right? Turns out that unbeknownst to me, Dave's sister Tina reads this sub a lot, and she saw my post and immediately figured out that it was me, posting about her brother, and she won't tell me if she was one of the commenters or not, but for those of you who called that Dave was the golden child, Tina says you were right on the money. She called me this morning. And, she seemed to find that really validating, and I've literally never heard her sound so happy. She's usually pretty depressed, so thanks everyone who decided to read into their family dynamics. You did her a solid. That was about 8 AM. I had to get off the phone to head to work, and then at about 10 I got a text from my wife that just said, "Come home now." I got another one just as I was starting the car that said, "The kids are fine," which I really appreciate, because that at least let me change gears from panic to concern. At some point we might discuss that, it would be good to include that in the first text. Anyway, not the point. I got home as fast as I safely could. I pulled up on the verge and tried to go through the front door, but the handle's broken. Mary's car was parked in the driveway. I had to go in through the garage. Inside there was my wife, Mary, and Mary's eldest, Jack, male 12. Mary was banging about the kitchen and Jack was crying on my wife. As I understand it, what happened was, just before she called me, Tina texted her brother a link to the post and made some kind of comment about it. I don't know what exactly she said, but Dave went into a rage, like the kind I thought he grew out of when we were teenagers, breaking crap and screaming. I thought the last time he did it was the time he hit my little brother, and I beat the crap out of him. I'm not saying it was right, but we were kids. I'm also not saying I'm sorry, to be honest. And then he hit Mary. She's got a bruise coming up on her face. Frick, I'm shaking writing this. I feel like it's all my fault. I can't remember if we told her that he used to be like that. We honestly thought he'd grown out of it. Mary managed to get the kids in the car and drove straight to our place because she knew there'd be someone home. Sally's a stay-at-home mother and my wife works from home some days, and there's just generally someone home. Dave followed and tried to force his way in. Apparently my expensive security door was worth the money because he managed to damage the handle, but the door stayed closed. Seems he gave up and ran when my wife yelled that I was on my way home. Jack burst into tears while he and I were moving furniture, so we talked and hugged for a bit, and now he's having a lie down in my bed because he was kinda wrung out. We're waiting for a locksmith as well to fix the door. After that, we're going to take him and Mary to the police station to make a report and give statements and whatever's involved in all that. Sally took our kids and Mary's youngest to my parents' place in case Dave came back. They're too young for this crap, but Jack refused to leave his mother. We're going to meet up with them after the police station. Those of you who said we should adopt Mary are getting their wish, at least for now. Jack's going to be sleeping in my youngest's big boy bed. The kidlet gets to stay in his cot and sleep in Sally's room for a bit, and Mary's youngest and my eldest will be sharing a room because they're only a few months apart and they get on well. Mary's sleeping on our couch until we get all this figured out. My youngest will probably think this is the best day ever.
He hates his big boy bed and he's going to get a reprieve from the transition. Plus he gets to share a room with his ma, and there's cupcakes in the house because Mary stress bakes and our kitchen counter is covered in cupcakes. I should add that according to Tina, Dave was telling his family that I talked him into the open marriage thing, specifically because I wanted to sleep with Mary, plus a bunch of other crap that I've honestly forgotten. It's been an absolute crap of a day and it's only 2:30. I'm pretty sure I just acquired a 12-year-old son 10 years early and seriously messed up, at least for a while, and I have to figure out how I'm going to fit Jack's needs into my life without neglecting my own kids. I can't even tell if I'm exaggerating. Jack's a wreck, and maybe those "please be my dad now" vibes are temporary, but maybe they're not, you know. Gonna end this now before I start rambling. Or keep rambling, I don't even know. Thanks everyone for all of your input. Don't be mad at Tina. I don't think there was any way she could have predicted Dave would lose his mind. Well, that escalated quickly. Let's go to the next update. I didn't think another update would be necessary, but I forgot to log out of this account and my inbox says I was wrong. First of all, updates on events for people who are concerned. Mary and the kids will not be staying with us, as charming an idea as that is. This weekend, her brother will be coming to pick them up and they'll be going to live with Mary's parents for now. They live about 6 hours out of town, so it's not an easy drop-off. We're looking for a counsellor for Jack who does telehealth, but there aren't really any in their parents' small town. I don't know what's happening with the legal stuff. It's only been a couple of days. I'm not sure anyone entirely knows. There were a few general themes in the comments and DMs I got, so I'm going to do some collective replies. Those of you who are worried about Mary and the kids, thank you. Hopefully they'll be okay. Her family is rallying round, and mine and my wife's are all taking her side, so those of you who thought this was all fake, okay, not sure what you want me to do with that. The person who kept spamming me with "Hi Liz," how do you not realise you had the wrong username for over 24 hours, what the heck? Those of you who thought the story was unrealistic because I was too heroic throughout, hot. Thank you for noticing what a god hero I am. What was your favourite part in all my heroics? The part where I was a craphead teenager with anger issues? The part where I got a text message and came home after all the drama was over? Or the part where a traumatised child burst into tears and I panicked so badly I thought it meant I had to be his dad now? When they make the movie, I want Hugh Jackman to play me. The people posting their harem and sister wives fantasy crap, you're as bad as Dave, but I'll allow that you spell better. If you can't even imagine the possibility that a man could have friends who are women he doesn't F, then that's a you problem. If you can't imagine that even when one of the women involved is aromantic and asexual, you might be a problem. The people who were concerned I was endangering Mary and the kids by putting it in a post that Dave might see, that they were in my house where he already knew they were, well, since he already knew, I don't think so. For all the people who've been kind and sympathetic, thank you. You don't deserve all the sarcasm in this post, and it's not directed at you. You're all lovely. I'm just tired. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, a bit of a blow up there, but it seems like they all got it under control now. Turns out Dave was a prick. Who knew? Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okay, we're jumping over to the relationship advice subreddit. This one was written by Can I Can, and it's titled, "My boyfriend suddenly told me he wants to establish traditional gender roles once we get married. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now, and it has been wonderful. We've been talking about marriage lately as it felt right for both of us. Over the course of our relationship, we often talked about what our goals are and what we wanted our future together to look like. I was always vocal about how I wanted a more equal, non-traditional relationship. We both work, we both don't want children. I expect to have a joint account with him and pay our expenses proportionally based on our income. I do make more than him, but I don't mind since I believe us to be a team, and for the last 3 years he's agreed with me, or so I thought. These past 2 to 3 weeks we've been setting a timeline on our wedding plans and all, basically talking about all the concrete steps and little details, and so I asked him again how he wanted our marriage to be like, but in more detail. He suddenly told me that he wants us to have traditional gender roles, and I was so confused. These past 3 years have not been that way. I'm so confused how he just expects us to change after marriage. I've been dating him and wanting to pursue something serious with him because I love our current dynamic, and he seemed happy too. I've made it clear since day one that I want to maintain what we have now, until forever. He has never told me that that was not the case for him. Now I feel tricked or lied to. He told me that although I make more of the income, he wants to be the man of the house, the leader, and so what he says goes. He has the final say in the decisions, and I cannot be questioning him. I told him this will lead me to not being hurt and miserable. It will make me feel less valued. He said it's the best way to avoid arguments. Sure, less arguments because what I think wouldn't matter, but I'll build resentment and then it's no longer a happy marriage. In my previous post, I mentioned that I've seen him binge watching alpha male podcasts recently, and I don't know if he has always thought this way or if it's recent. All I know is that my whole body is telling me that this is not it. I cannot marry him. It sounds like trouble. But am I correct for thinking this way? I don't know why, but the last 3 years have been so wonderful that it's so hard for me to wrap my head around this sudden switch. Please give me some advice and courage. Oh please, another quote-unquote alpha male that doesn't possess any traits of what he thinks he is. I have a pretty good idea of what the comments are going to say here. Bow out now. Divorce is so much more expensive and difficult than just bailing now when he's telling you exactly what he wants and you hate what he's saying. 3 years wasted, better than 10 or God forbid more. Best way to avoid arguments is to kneel to his power and accept his authority. Right. Well, good thing the cat's out of the bag now. Better to get this information out pre-marriage. Personally, I think I would just entertain the conversation without argument. See how deep these thoughts of his go. Let him dig himself into a hole so you know exactly what you're dealing with. Get the confirmation that this is a genuine want of his, and if it is, not something you're signing up for. You've become incompatible and it would be time to find someone else. That kind of marriage sounds horrible. No kids, cook, clean, serve him, probably no control over personal finances, can't speak your mind, he gets the final say. Good times. You're dodging a bullet big time. Yet another man who wants to be the man of the house without the man of the house funds. Leave him where you found him. Opie answers a few comments. One of them says, "It sounds like you never really knew him. He sounds like he's always been a misogynist. You just never got a clear and direct answer from him. You say you were always vocal about what you wanted, but was he? You never mentioned if he agreed with you. You said you asked him again, which shows you never had a solid answer, yet you both still talked about marriage. Did you both agree on things, or was he passively acknowledging? This doesn't sound like a sudden switch. This sounds like he was passive, and now he's actively acting in his own best interests. It's just that it's come to crunch time. Maybe when you look back at your first interactions with him, you'll notice the pattern of passivity on his part. Not saying that this is the case or it's on you, but it's that the signs were always there. It's just not easy to recognize them. Women especially are conditioned to tolerate a lot of things because being single as a woman is the worst thing ever to alpha males as it happens. Be wary of what you think is right for you and what's expected of you to tolerate." Opie says, "I think you're right actually. There were many times where he would just nod, and if I directed a question at him, he'd answer vaguely to kind of match mine and deflect. I think that made me think he agreed, especially since he never said anything opposing it, and he clearly knew my position. I think I just expected people to be honest, gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm naive, I guess. Thanks for your response." One commenter says, "This seems unrealistic. People change as they mature. Life and circumstances change. You need to be able to grow and change too." Opie says, "Of course, I meant in the sense of the equality aspect of the relationship, that as we grow and we are thrown obstacles, we can still be a team and work things out. No one is below the other. Each person is valued equally, heard and loved." Another commenter says, "Maybe go to counselling. He may be watching these because he feels disrespect. I don't know, there just must be a reason he started listening to the podcasts. This is a huge deal, so you need to figure something out or break up because these are two totally different mentalities in marriage." Opie replies, "He's unfortunately not into the idea of counselling, although in the past 3 years he said he was, but recently his mind seems to have changed a lot." Okay, now for an update. Thank you all for your responses. I wanted to update you guys on what happened and hopefully answer some of your questions along the way. I luckily don't live with him or have any shared assets, He also did explicitly say that he expects me to continue working, so I guess he wanted the best of both worlds. And before we started dating, I was hesitant due to our age gap. I've heard of horror stories, so I've been very careful about power dynamics. But he was amazing for the last 3 years, so I did put my defences down eventually. My friends and family also liked him. They always said we seemed genuinely happy together and complimented each other well. On to what happened. He came over to my house the night I posted on Reddit, which isn't unusual. We spend most nights together after work. I knew I had to break up, but didn't know how to yet. I was still debating if I should ask him more questions or just end it. And if I end it, do I tell him everything or keep it concise? Luckily, he did not suspect anything so far, so it bought me some time to figure out my next step, I thought. As soon as he came in, though, he tried to initiate intimacy, and I said no since I was not in the mood, understandably so. He got angry. He's never done this before. We have always had a very healthy, fulfilling sexual relationship, but now he kept trying to convince me to have sex with him, and asked me why I was putting my need over his, that I could just force myself to do it for the sake of our relationship. I said that I wasn't feeling well. I know I shouldn't even have to justify though. He said that even if I'm not feeling well, it's not an excuse. I was disgusted. I fell out of love that instant. I mean, I was already in the process of it, but this really did it. I also felt very unsafe. I stood my ground, told him that this is not consensual and that someone's health is more important than his need for sex. I kept repeating it until he eventually stopped pushing, but he didn't leave my place until an hour later. I was afraid to anger him again by telling him to leave, so I just stayed quiet doing stuff around the apartment until he decided to leave. Luckily, nothing happened to me, but wow. I told my friends and family everything. They support me in my decision to break up and helped me prepare my speech. I asked him to meet me in a public space the next day, as one of the comments suggested. My friends were nearby keeping an eye. He was still angry at me because I haven't been talking to him, and I refused sex. He asked me why I expect him to take care of me when I'm unwell, but I didn't give him sex yesterday. I decided to not waste my breath in explaining something so basic. I went on with my breakup speech as prepared, where I told him everything, how disrespectful he's been, all the podcast stuff, etc. He suddenly looked so scared and begged me to take him back. He said he understands what I'm saying and that I'm right about the podcast and that he'll work on it. He was trying to convince me not to break up, but I did not believe anything he said. I held my ground and told him there is no room for discussion. It's over, and I left. Now I feel the weight lifted, but I'm also heartbroken. I know this was the right thing to do. I just feel defeated. I wake up so anxious and feel like crying constantly. I'm barely eating. I'm seeing a therapist next week to help cope. If you guys have words of encouragement and maybe success stories of meeting your person, I'd love to hear. Thank you all sincerely. You all helped me in finding courage and strength in my time of need. Okie dokie, and that's all she wrote for that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Geez, why is it so hard for these blokes to understand relationship dynamics? Like, it's not rocket science, man. If you treat your girlfriend like crap, she's gonna leave you. Like, what do you expect? Anyway, good decision by OP. She really dodged a bullet there. I found her TikTok after we went on a date. This is honestly not something I expected to post about, but here's the thing. I've known this woman, 28 female, for a while since we're in the same friend groups. She's a nice person, attractive, and honestly, I've always enjoyed my talks with her. A few weeks ago, I, 26 male, asked her out on a date. I figured if she says no, it's fine, but she actually agreed. We went on a date this past Saturday, and honestly, I thought it was awesome. We went out to dinner, had drinks, spent the rest of the night talking, and we even took a walk on a walking bridge over the town's lake. It's not a big one. I dropped her off and was elated. I absolutely loved the night. However, that night when I was scrolling through TikTok on my bed, a post from her, I didn't follow nor knew she had a TikTok, appeared on my For You page. Essentially, she said in the post, "Getting ready for a date I really don't want to go to." That was like a bucket of ice water being thrown on my head. I was so freaking happy, and I just found out she didn't even want to go on a date with me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she has to want it, but please let me know if that's the case. We don't need to go out. We can forget I even asked her out.
But doing this on the internet, it made me self-conscious. Not sure if that's the right word. Now, I'm unsure about what to do. Should I tell her I saw this or just forget about it? Honestly, it really hurt me, and I'm not really sure I want to give this another try. I mean, she didn't want to go out with me in the first place, right? Well, I mean, if you both had a good time, then maybe she was pleasantly surprised. Who knows, it might not be all bad. Let's go to the comments. I'd comment on the post and ask if the date went well. Just because she didn't want to go doesn't mean she didn't have a good time. I think all of us have been there, where we don't feel like socialising, but it turns out okay or fun. Her not wanting to go may not be a judgment on the OP at all. Could simply be they weren't in the mood for a date, which might actually be a compliment to OP that she was still willing to do it for OP anyhow. I'd say leave her be. If she asks why, then tell her you saw the video. Simple as that. The thing for me would be this: who on earth would post that on TikTok, and why? The potential answers will tell you a lot. I would never want to be with someone that would find that an appropriate thing to post for so many reasons. My interest in such a person would disappear after seeing something like that, and I hope you have the wherewithal to feel similarly. This woman is not worth it, and at least you discover that quickly. Distance yourself if you know it's good for you. No point in causing any drama over it, and honestly, that might be something she would enjoy. Yeah, but also she could also be making up the scenario for content. I don't know, there's a few options here. Let's go to the update. Hello everyone. Some people have reached out to me through comments or chat asking for an update on the situation. Sadly, there isn't much to share at the moment, but I'll provide what I can. Please keep in mind that I won't be discussing this further, nor will I reply to comments. Thank you for your understanding. After last week's post, I read almost every comment, or at least most of them. I'm thankful to all those who commented and shared a bit of their own personal story. Some people mentioned that anxiety is normal and feeling like not going out is definitely common, suggesting that I shouldn't look too much into it. While I agree with their perspective and see no fault in not feeling like going out, what bothered me the most in this situation was having to post a TikTok for a significant audition. I'm a private person by nature, and even my social media accounts like Instagram have only a single post. I don't really like to overtly share, nor do I want to be with someone who does. It's completely fine to share whatever you want, I just don't want to be a part of it. So I decided not to contact her. I chose to pretend I'd never seen the post and let things be. I understand a lot of people might not think this is the best choice, but I feel it's the best course for both of us. Last Thursday, a few friends, who also happened to know her, invited me for drinks. We went to a bar, and while we were eating and enjoying our drinks, a mutual friend asked me how my date went. As our circle was aware that we were going on a date, I didn't want to say much, so I just replied, "Oh, it was good, but I don't think we clicked." The friend followed it by saying, "We figured," which made me feel rather uneasy. When I asked what he was talking about, he hesitated but eventually said that they had seen a TikTok post from her about not wanting to go out. At this point, I didn't really know what to say. This situation is just incredibly messy for me, and there's not much I can do about it. Still, I wasn't going to mention it, nor did I try to look it up if there was any update on her part. In fact, I deleted TikTok after that incident. It just wasn't doing me any good. Nevertheless, this past Saturday, she sent me a text. She mentioned that she enjoyed our date and asked if I wanted to go out again. I understand that she clearly stated that she enjoyed our time together. However, I don't want to be with someone who exposes so much of their personal life. It's not something that would be good for me. So I decided to tell her the truth and sent a text explaining that while I absolutely enjoyed our date, her company, and that I thought that she was an amazing woman, her post from the night of our date came across my For You page on TikTok, and it made me really feel self-conscious. While I understand that she enjoyed the date, contrary to what she felt at the time of the post, I didn't feel comfortable going out with someone who had such a high level of exposure online. I wished her the best and expressed hope that she finds someone whose lifestyle aligns with hers. She has read the message and left me on read ever since. I don't think she'll reply, and I don't think we'll have a lot of social interactions going forward. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you guys were expecting, but yeah, sadly, that's what the situation became. Anyhow, I wish everyone a good day. Okay, yeah, that's the end of that one. Yeah, so a few of the comments were right about her actually enjoying the date, but yeah, I guess OP's kind of life outlook doesn't really align with hers. I guess if there's one positive, it's that OP probably didn't lose any self-confidence. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that one, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife no? My wife, 35 female, and I, 35 male, have been married for 12 years, dated for 3 years before that. We have 3 kids, 10 male, 7 female, and 5 female. We both work full-time in separate fields. She does some chemistry thing that I don't understand, and I'm a manager at a computer repair store my friend runs, and also a short story writer when it's slow. She's definitely the breadwinner, bill payer between the two of us, but I bring in the fun money for our family, and would be completely listless if I didn't at least work part-time. We also fully own our home because of her job. Also, my parents watch the kids for us during the week when we are working. It's been this way since our son was born, and they've been doing it less since they're all in school, but it's free childcare. They refuse to accept the money unless it's reimbursing for buying food. Okay, now that all of that backstory is set, here's where the problem begins. A couple of months ago, my wife started peppering into conversations about a possible promotion coming up that would get her out of the lab and into a more manage the lab team position with less dangerous hours for more pay. Ever since the first time she mentioned it, I've been hyping her up and telling her she's a shoo-in for the promotion, especially since she's been working there since her master's internship and now she has a PhD. Last night she told me she was getting word today if she got it. After she left for work this morning, I called my boss up and told him I couldn't come in today, and then told my parents the kids were staying with me. We spent the day cleaning the house, drawing congratulation cards, and making a congratulations banner. We also made a couple cards that said sorry, and we love you if she didn't get it. I was working on making her favourite dinner, lobster rolls with lobster bisque, because she's a fancy lady, when she got home earlier than normal. Everyone was surprised because no one is usually home at this time, and yet here everyone was. She got tears in her eyes seeing everything we were still working on, got down and hugged our 2 youngest, and said she got the promotion, cheering all around. And that's when she dropped the bomb, saying we need to get a realtor and estate 3 away from us so we can relocate within the next 2 months. I was stunned and just said no, we aren't moving for this promotion. In all of her talks, she never mentioned that the promotion wasn't for the same location she's been at. All of our family is here, her parents and mine. All of our friends are here. My job is here. She insisted that she's mentioned relocating before, but I swear she never did. That set a completely new argument about never listening to her and only hearing what I want to hear, and how this will make it so I can stay at home with the kids and not even need a fun money job. During this, I noticed she was typing on her phone, and when I asked why she was multitasking an argument, she said she was texting my parents to get the kids so they don't have to see this. When my parents got here, they congratulated her on the promotion and asked how long until we move. She told my parents the promotion included relocation. I'm typing this on the couch in the basement because I can't face her right now. My parents knowing means she probably did say we would need to move if she got it. I don't want to move. I like my job and our house. I like being near my parents. I know this would practically set us up for life, but I don't want to. I know I'm being selfish, and I know I must not be listening when she talks, but I still don't think she should accept the promotion. I still think no. Yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one, because there's multiple sides here. Obviously there's a chance that she didn't actually tell him about the relocation because she knew he would not want to do it, but also the kids' side that no one's really discussed. Maybe they don't want to move, maybe they got friends, maybe they got a school that they're comfortable in. But yeah, there's also the side that it sounds like this job will set them up for life and, create a good base for their family. Honestly, if I was OP, I'd probably just move. There's something exciting in, a new environment. It sounds like OP's comfortable where he is right now, and honestly, I think that's dangerous in development and, life fulfillment. Anyway, that's just me. Unfortunately, there's no comments on this one because the post was deleted, but let me know what you guys think. Let's go to the update. This has only been up for a few hours, but I wanted to get this in as soon as I could. It's been a little less than a month since I had sent this in, so a lot has happened. I will front load with information people asked about. I've been tested for ADD as a kid, but did not get diagnosed, though I guess that would be something that can change as I age. I probably should get tested for ADHD considering she's told me her exact job many times and it refuses to stick in my brain. It's something to do with the environmental testing, like soil, water, etc. It's definitely not incredibly dangerous, but it involves chemicals, so there's always some danger. There were many conversations in general about her possible promotion, mostly about upgrading cars and electronics, It was never really about anything detailed beyond that. I don't actually know why my parents never mentioned it. I should probably ask them at some point. Our kids do have friends in school, though in these few weeks they never really talked about anything with me. It was like everyone was walking on eggshells where I was concerned. My son did say we needed a school with a good soccer team though, so he had some opinions after the argument. When my parents got the kids, she stormed up to our room and I went and hid in the basement. I was definitely being a coward, but I also wanted us both to calm down. I did feel silly asking Tumblr about this, but I've been here since 2010. I was falling back on a previous safe haven. That next conversation did not happen. The next morning she was acting like I was perfectly fine with everything, and we weren't arguing in the first place. It was weird, but after the argument in front of our kids and venting here, I had decided that I would support my wife. If my parents knew we were moving, I was clearly in the wrong. This, of course, is when things started breaking down. Buckle up, this is going to get stupid, and if you think this sounds like a bad story, you try living it. Within days of the announcement, we had a realtor looking at houses for us near what will be her new office. She was planning on being the one to do a final walkthrough after we picked a house via photos, so she could multitask and get acclimated at the new job location. It was her suggestion, and I didn't want to rock the boat any further. Conversations between us were only about logistics at this point, how we would handle moving, when was my last day, where were the kids getting transferred to, etc. It was very stilted, and any time I would try to just talk normally, she would ignore me. The next time I had work, one of her co-workers came in with her kid's busted laptop. The screen took some kind of sports ball to the face, basically. As I was filling out the intake form, she asked me how our kids were handling the transfer. When I asked her what she meant, she clarified that she was talking about the transfer request my wife put in. To the office, she said the promotion transferred her too. I told her that my wife didn't put in a transfer request, but instead was given a promotion with a transfer. She then told me that my wife had that promotion since January and recently put in a transfer request that was approved. The promotion that included a hefty pay rise. When she left, I checked her bank account on my phone and saw that the same amount that she's always been paid was still what she was getting. I believe the co-worker must have been mistaken, but when I went home to speak to my wife about it, she told me that the co-worker was just jealous she'd been passed over for the promotion and wanted to add to the drama in our house. That seemed to break the ice a bit, and I was able to apologise to her for the misunderstanding and the argument. She told me she accepted the apology and that she assumed it was coming because of how helpful and attentive I'd been. According to her, I was paying more attention than normal, and she appreciated it. She must have spoken with a co-worker about this at some point, because when she came to pick up the laptop a few days later, she refused to speak with me past hello and here's the bill, and was glaring the entire time. After that conversation, things seemed to settle. I wasn't happy about the relocation, but I didn't want our family to break apart all because I wasn't paying as much attention as I should. This new attitude was the final nail. We had started organising things, throwing away and donating things we didn't remember even having, etc., to prepare for the move. While I was going through a closet she normally hid the kids' Christmas presents in, I found a few old laptops. She claims that she hides everyone's presents in that closet, and that I found her birthday present for me, just some things to tinker with while we settle. Not totally weird, but it was a little. She probably knows about as much about my work as I do about hers. I also found a few books that belonged to her mother. I figured that I could start to mend that bridge. Her parents never liked me, and bring them the books. I did not tell my wife about this, but considering the level of dust on them, I'm sure she forgot they were there. Her parents live a few hours away from us, not even slightly as close as my parents, but they would still be states away after the move. I drove the entire way, not meeting halfway or anything. It was an awkward meeting, but her mum did appreciate me bringing the books to them. Apparently she thought she'd lost them. We did some stilted small talk over a late lunch, and I asked how they felt about my wife's promotion and move. They seemed a little confused, and stuff was slowly unravelled. According to her mother, she mentioned the promotion in January when she got it. She had mentioned to her dad that they were saving the extra money just in case, because of a business venture my boss and I were planning. According to her, we were going to try opening a location in the city we were moving to, and I would be leading it. Her parents said they knew I had some failed investments and plans in the past, so they were honestly not hopeful this would go well, but they were glad she was able to transfer with her promotion to the other office. Guys, I had no idea what they were talking about. Investments or plans? I'd done the same job since college and I've never invested money a day in my life. I said as much and then also told them I was going home to talk to the wife. I don't really know how they reacted. I was basically in tunnel vision. Probably shouldn't have been driving. So much ran through my head during that drive home, and I was ready to confront her about everything. I guess her parents called while I was driving back, and it tripped her up enough that she just told me everything. She was cheating on me. Had been for years. Once she got the promotion in January, she set up a second bank account and had them split the check between the two. Her boyfriend in the city we were moving to had access to the new account. He already owned a house, but he used some of the money to fix it up a bit, and was just waiting for us to come, I guess to sweep her off her poor feet after my business venture failed. She didn't tell me about relocating on purpose. She's been poisoning her parents' thoughts of me for years, and she's been lying to my parents and children. She also told the co-worker that started this thread that I never listened to her, and the misunderstanding was just another instance. She told me she never thought so many things would come undone at once. She's still planning on moving. Me and the kids aren't. Oh my god, that twist just gave me whiplash. Jesus, I did not expect that. I mean, as terrible as it is, it's honestly a pretty impressive scheme, as far as, cheating on your spouse goes. I've heard a lot of those stories, and some lies better than others, but honestly, this one takes the cake for, honestly the most elaborate and, dare I say, best idea? I mean, changing her family and friends' opinion of you over years without you knowing, splitting up the bank accounts, all of that was pretty impressive. Anyway, enough praise about the cheater. Obviously, that's terrible, and Opie's, completely been blindsided here, obviously. But yeah, those poor kids, I mean, their mum's just gonna ditch them now. Yeah, I feel sorry for them. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, we're on the Am I Wrong subreddit. This one was written by user Emergency Moment, and it's titled, I Feel Like a Terrible Mum. I, 24 female, didn't wake up to my crying baby for 30 minutes. I feel absolutely awful and disgusted with myself. My fiancé, 26 male, left work because he saw on the baby monitor that the baby was crying. We have one that connects to our phones as well as the monitor that comes with it. He came home screaming at me because I didn't wake up. For context, I'd been up all night, and at 6 AM I was with the baby and heard my fiancé's alarm going off. I walked into the room and asked when he had to be up, but all he did was snooze his alarm and mute the monitor that sits on the side of the bed. I watched him do this. After being screamed at, I told my fiancé that the sound of the monitor was off. I apologized profusely. The issue is that he says he didn't turn the sound off on the monitor and will not take any responsibility for that. He asked, "Why didn't you turn it back on?" As if it's all my responsibility. I told him I'd been up all night as usual, and maybe I wouldn't have slept through it if he would help in the middle of the night. He just said I'm making excuses. I feel horrible enough and have been crying all morning because I feel like a terrible mum. Our daughter is fine and happy now. I'm nursing her as I type this. My fiancé consistently sleeps through the sound of our daughter crying, and I'm almost always the one to get up. So why is he making me feel worse when he knows I already feel like garbage? I've tried apologizing over and over, but he won't listen to me, and told me he's done talking to me for the rest of the day. What can I do? I want to make this right, but I feel like I'm in a losing battle no matter what. Help! Am I a bad mum? Sounds like the workload distribution in regards to the baby's a little bit off here. Let's go to the comments. He drove home to yell at you instead of phoning you to wake you up? What the F is that about? Babies cry, it happens. Parents get tired, it happens. Having someone F with my sleep schedule, then turn off my baby monitor, then storm home from work to freak out on me? That's a new one. No, you are not a bad mum. You are completely exhausted, and the reason you are exhausted is because you're seriously sleep deprived and have no support. He doesn't wake up but expects you to, on no sleep. If possible, can you take your baby to a relative for a day so you can get some sleep? When you can get back on an even keel, have a serious talk with your useless husband. Okay, straight to an edit and then an update. Thank you to almost everyone for being kind and offering advice and support. You made me feel like I wasn't alone on a pretty rough day. Lots to talk about in couples therapy this week. Hopefully this is something we can work through. Otherwise, I'll be back again to ask how to go about a peaceful custody agreement. And to clarify, I do also work as a dental assistant 30 plus hours a week. Finances have always been split 50-50, and to those judging stay-at-home mums, I hope you realise they do the work you pay someone else to do. Update. Fiancé came home and apologised to me and took responsibility for how wrong he was. I laid down the law like many of you suggested and said I will absolutely not tolerate being yelled at or disrespected. If he makes me feel like a single mum again, I can be one. We are going to be attempting a new schedule of him taking over completely when he gets home, and then taking turns overnight. Thank you again, everyone, for your support. Oh, great. Good to hear that the husband came to his senses and apologised. Yeah, let's hope they can kind of come up with a good schedule there. I think that's important.
G'day there guys, and welcome to some more stories from Reddit. My name is Connor and thanks for joining me today. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Okay, our first story today was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Butterscotch West, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my kids the real reason why me and their father divorced years ago? I, female 35, have two teenage daughters, 18 and 16, with my ex-husband, 37. We were together until my daughters were 8 and 10 when I found out my husband had been cheating on me for almost 3 years. Before finding out, I'd already checked out the relationship because while he was out with other women, I had to do 100% of the childcare, plus work a full-time job, so I never had time to myself. We did try to make it work, but I just didn't love him anymore. So in the end, we divorced. We split everything down the middle. We both had 50-50 custody since he started shaping up into a decent father. We both decided that we would never tell our children the real reason because I wanted my daughters to have a good and healthy relationship with their dad. My ex-husband did end up marrying the girl he cheated on me with, but I harboured no hard feelings. I just wanted her to treat my girls right. Fast forward now, my ex-husband and his wife have 2 sons, 7 and 5, and I'm married to my husband, 40, and I'm currently 6 months pregnant with another girl. We all get along well, and there are no hard feelings towards anybody. Sometimes when I take my girls out, I take their brothers, and when me and my husband and I need alone time, they would take the girls. Recently, my daughters started putting together the pieces using their 7-year-old brother's birth date, and when my and their father's divorce was finalised. Me and their father didn't know they were doing this, but we did think it was weird that they asked us about our divorce until yesterday. Both of my daughters confronted me when I came home from work. I did try to deny it, but in the end I told them what happened. They asked me why I didn't tell them, and I said because it was none of their business what happened in a previous marriage. Everyone is happy, and that's what matters. This caused a big fight of them claiming it was their business, and now they're upset with me, but also have been ignoring their father, which is hurting him and his family. Am I the a-hole? Let's look at the comments. As a counsellor, who admitted doesn't do a lot of marriage work, one thing that I think you're missing is that it's their business, at least emotionally. When we love someone, we don't want them to be hurt and betrayed. They obviously feel that dad hurt and betrayed you. It's also their business because maybe they were unhappy with the divorce and now know dad broke up the family. Maybe validate them loving you, but explain your healing process and why you value their relationship with their father. Soft, you're the a-hole for dismissing their feelings now. I understand why you didn't tell them, but now that they know, stop acting like they should just get over it. They could be upset at the life they could have had and the betrayal of their family by their father. You and your ex should try and help them process their emotions and not just stomp it down because you think everyone is happy with the outcome. You're the a-hole for not understanding why they're upset and invalidating their feelings. If your girls are in any way against cheating, you not disclosing to them what type of people their father and stepmother are makes them feel betrayed and hurt. You let them build a strong relationship with their stepmother based on lies. Their stepmother, who knowingly slept with and got pregnant by a married man. Kids can forgive their biological parents because those are their parents, but stepmother is no one to them. She's just a person who created a life for her own biological kids in which they're growing up with both parents in the same house. While your girls don't have that, and they don't have that because of those 2 jerks. Edit. A lot of you guys are saying that my girls aren't dumb and they would have found out. They aren't, but I didn't think they'd try to go in depth of what happened in me and their father's marriage. The reason for the divorce was always that we just didn't love each other anymore, but we loved them. Another edit. I'm not trying to tell my girls how to feel at all. I just don't want them to have the thought in their head. What if my dad didn't cheat? Maybe they still would be together, which isn't true. I want them to understand that regardless of if their dad was faithful, we would have divorced. We were young and we thought that we were supposed to marry the person you had kids with. Of course, we loved each other, but as we grew older, we realised we just had different plans in life. My ex and I did decide that we would sit them down later today and have a chat. Now for some more comments. Opie opens up about her own past. Yes, I had divorced parents. I haven't seen my father since I was 6, so it was just me and my mother. I was always happy when my mother was in relationships, even if they only lasted a few months, especially since her partners would always make sure I didn't go without. Yes, I know the divorce affected them, but the cheating shouldn't. When they divorced, they had a therapist. My 16-year-old still goes, but my oldest stopped going. Not the a-hole, but the girls have a right to know and process on their own. Opie says, I know I should stay out of it, but I don't want them to do something they would regret. I don't want them to take out their anger on their little brothers, especially since they look up to them. Opie explains more about why she thought it wasn't necessary for them to know. I understand what you're saying, but what I meant is being upset isn't going to change anything at all. It's going to make them upset and bitter towards people who love them so much. Their father and stepmom would walk through fire to make sure they were okay, and I don't want them to burn bridges just because they're thinking about the what-ifs. Yes, their dad cheated, but he was in his 20s, and he's a completely different person now that he's reaching his 40s. Yes, it's okay to be upset and confused, but in the end, I don't want them to dread over it. Me and their dad both thought it wasn't necessary or age-appropriate for them to know about the cheating. Even still, they now have 2 perfectly healthy relationships to look up to. If they ever need to co-parent with future partners, and also have a healthy example to put the kids first. Opie explains more about why she doesn't feel as betrayed over the cheating. He didn't destroy the family unit, it was already destroyed. Him cheating didn't hurt me. I can see it, the kids, and possibly their relationship. Okay, why are people telling me the reason why they think I fell out of love? I didn't care that he didn't put time into me. Maybe I wished he'd put more time into the kids so I could have had some time to myself. Yeah, so the votes in the comments here were pretty heavily mixed. Where do you guys stand on this one? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's go to the update. Hello. I decided to write an update, even though it's quite long. Today, my ex-husband, me, and the girls were supposed to have a family chat, but he had a family emergency concerning his wife because she had twisted her ankle at her 7-year-old son's soccer game. I hope she feels better. Anyways, they were understandably upset and took this as another sign that he was putting his new family over them. I didn't say anything and instead let them vent, and I comforted them. From what my ex-husband is saying, we would have to wait another time to have this conversation altogether. Regardless, I still wanted to talk to my girls tonight. At first it was incredibly awkward, and the air was filled with tension. I could feel that they didn't trust me, and it hurt because it's my fault. I started talking and I first apologized for telling them that it wasn't their business. I reassured them that everything that happened in their home was their business, and I was truly sorry for making them feel like they didn't matter, because they were the most important things that ever happened to me. At this point, my 16-year-old started to cry a bit, which made me start to cry because I know the news was a lot for her. I ended up telling them the reason why I kept it for so long, because I wanted them to have a good relationship with their dad, and I didn't want them to worry about adult matters so young, especially when they'd already had a lot going on. I told them I just wanted to shield them from anything that could hurt them, which I then apologized for because, in the end, it was wrong and they deserved to know. I told them from now on I was going to be more open to any questions they had about me and their father's marriage. I also explained that I wouldn't tell them how they should move on when it comes to their dad, and I would support them if they needed time away from them. I did tell them that any anger they have towards their dad and stepmom, they should never take it out on their brothers. They said that they still loved their brothers, but they just didn't want to see their dad or stepmom right now. I asked them how they felt, and they were understandably upset, and felt like they were easily replaceable, which broke my heart. I told them that their father has a lot of work on, but they can always count on me, and they could never be replaceable to me. At this point, we were all crying while we were hugging. They ended up asking how I felt, and I was truthful. I told them I was confused and I didn't know how to feel. By this point, we were quiet. My 16-year-old was laying her head on my belly, while my 18-year-old was resting her head on my shoulder. I'm going to try to get my 18-year-old back into therapy. They do want to cut off their dad and stepmom, as a lot of you guys suspected, but they're afraid they won't see the boys anymore, which may be true. Regardless, me and my husband are 100% there for them. I'm very thankful for all the advice given. I was being completely selfish, which ended up hurting everyone even more. I don't know if it will make another upset because I'm 80% sure the family talk with my ex-husband will not happen. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think of that one in the comments. It was interesting to read contrasting arguments on both sides of that story. But yeah, a complicated mess without a doubt. Anyway, let's go to our next one. Okay, this one's from the same subreddit. It was written by user Ancient Mesopotamia, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my poor friend that he's actually the privileged one now?" One of my very close friends, Nathan, 29 male, and I, 28 male, met during our first post-college job at a prestigious finance firm, and we immediately bonded over the long work hours, crappy middle management, and general soul-sucking nature of making PowerPoint slides and Excel sheets all day. For the next few years, a lot of our friendship revolved around us talking about work and how much we hated it. A few years ago, I decided that I just couldn't take the corporate grind anymore, and I quit my job to move into the non-profit world. While I now certainly make less than I would have at my old job, I'm exponentially happier, healthier, and absolutely love the work that I do. I also still make a very good salary, $80K a year, which I feel is more than enough money for me and my needs. Nathan has been ambitiously climbing the corporate ladder and recently became a VP at his firm. He makes well over $300K a year. Nathan grew up in a very poor family, and his relatives are still financially unstable and often ask him for money. I, on the other hand, grew up in a comfortable upper-middle-class suburb with parents who have always been financially stable. They're not millionaires, but if anything ever happened to me, they could and would help me until I could get back on my feet. Nathan does not have that privilege. I recently got offered my dream job, where I would be making slightly less money than I am now, $75K a year. Despite the money, I am genuinely giddy about this job prospect and was pumped to tell my friends. However, when I told Nathan, his response was, "I'm glad you have the financial privilege to take a pay cut," not, "Wow, OP, I know you've been really wanting this job for months now and have told me all about how excited you are about it. Congratulations," or anything along those lines. I'll admit that I snapped back at him and told him that he makes triple the amount of money I do, and that at some point he needs to realize he's now got privileges of his own, instead of pointing out mine. The conversation got a bit heated, and we agreed to hang up and cool off before talking it over later. Now I'm wondering if I should apologize to Nathan for what I said, or if I should stand my ground. I'm feeling angry and a bit defensive, which I realize is exactly the reaction that a spoiled rich kid would have. However, I also do think it was a bit mean of him to say that at that exact moment when I was so excited. And while generational wealth does give privileges that income alone does not, he literally does make over triple the amount of money that I now make, so it seems a tiny bit hypocritical for him to be calling me privileged. Also, as a final note, while my parents certainly are well off, they do not support me financially in any way, and have not since I graduated from college 7 years ago. So, I leave the judgment to you all. Am I the a-hole? Let's check the comments. Not the a-hole. Cry me a river to all the whiny idiots making $300K a year. The dream is to get that job and invest for 5 solid years so that you can retire out in the countryside. Not the a-hole. What kind of friend says that when their friend tells them they got their dream job? Someone replies, "The kind with a chip on his shoulder. He may be earning a lot, but inside he's still that little poor boy with an inferiority complex, and it makes him angry that his happiness is tied into his net worth, while OP's is not, thus the pay cut not being a problem." No a-holes here. He's right, you don't have any financial obligations to anyone other than yourself. If you lost your job, you know you'd have someone around to backstop your fall. He's still grinding at a soul-sucking occupation because he doesn't have the opportunity to leave. He has others who depend on him to bail them out, but he has no one to bail him out. He's a little bitter about it. None of this makes anyone a jerk. You just didn't understand the position he's in because you've never lived it. Toss-up between no a-holes here and everyone sucks here, but I'm going with the latter. First off, you worked the job with him. Long, hard hours. You knew the deal. You know he has to work his butt off all week long for his paycheck. It's not easy for him just because he's stuck with it. Secondly, it was a little rude for your friend to say he's glad you can afford a pay cut. Personally, that does read a little backhanded, but at the same time, can you see his perspective? He has had to grind non-stop at his job to make his money, so his old buddy who can afford to quit and work a job he enjoys for less than a third of the original salary is a huge slap in the face. Thirdly, you saying he has privilege is ridiculous. How is he privileged, especially compared to you? You quit, didn't get fired or anything. You chose to leave, willingly giving up your position. I hope you realise this and apologise because he is not privileged. He has made his own life for himself without the safety blanket of a financially secure home. So while everyone sucks here, you should still apologise for what you said and hope your friend will do the same. Great comment, that one. Let's go to the update. Whoa, this really blew up in a way I wasn't expecting. I've spent hours reading as many comments as I can, and I thank each of you for your perspectives. I've really learned a lot about privilege and what it's like to grow up poor from some of your stories. While it is nice many of you have to say that I'm not the jerk, I do think I approached Nathan's situation with a lot of ignorance and potential jerkery. User Equivalent Joke said it best. I don't think it matters who's more right here. What matters is whether Nathan has been a good friend and one that's worth keeping. If the answer is yes, a heart-to-heart talk should sort this out. Genuine adult friendships are hard to come by. Don't let a misunderstanding ruin it. Nathan's been my buddy for years, through thick and thin, and so I called him back up to apologise. I mentioned that I really didn't know what his experience had been like, and that I was so proud of him for all he's accomplished, and that I just felt a little hurt and unsupported when he called me out for my privilege from the get-go, instead of being happy for me. I felt like he was minimising my success, but it turns out he's just been having a tough time at work and didn't respond in the best way to my job news. He apologised too, and we had a really nice conversation. I think that since we started our careers at the same place and time, that it's easy for us to compare ourselves, and we're both guilty of the competitive comparison game with each other. Anyway, it's all good now, and I think we've opened up a good dialogue where I can learn more about my buddy's past and what it's been like for him, and try and support him with some of the mental struggles of coming from poverty. Listen to that commenter and have heart-to-hearts with your friends, and learn from your mistakes. Also, Nathan and I will be going to a baseball game next week, and he offered to buy the tickets because he's loaded and I'm a non-profit schlub. Both his words. Both said with love. Sounds like these guys are really good mates. That's great to hear. Let me know what you guys think of this story and we'll go to our next one. Okay, this next one's from Am I the A-hole as well. It was written by user Please Clean Your Junk, and it's titled, Would I be the a-hole if I break up with my boyfriend because of his hygiene? I, 24 female, am too old for this. I'm not a clean freak either. I met my boyfriend 6 months ago. He was a little hippie, which I didn't mind. So a little about him. He is a hardcore vegan. He is someone you can call an environmentalist. He thinks a lot about the environment. He only buys clothes from shops that are locally owned. He's big on recycling things. He doesn't use toothpaste but a mess whack. He is also anti-shave, though he trims his beard. So ever since I was with him, I always had this hunch that he's not washing properly. We do not live together, so I'm not at his house more often. He always smells like spices, so I had no idea his hygiene was so bad until now. I mean, I noticed it. He never shaved down there. I always had a funky smell from his junk. He doesn't have cleaning supplies in his house. I asked about it, and he said he doesn't use chemicals that will harm the environment. He uses vinegar and lemon to clean stuff. It was odd, but I get it. I let it slide, though it should have been my first red flag. Now I have come to the last straw. Last night when I was in his place, I was using the bathroom. After I was done, I didn't see toilet paper. This is one thing I used to be glad that he kept in his house, though I am someone who prefers a bidet. I asked him to get me some toilet paper because he ran out. He told me he threw away all the toilet rolls because they clog the draining system and go to the ocean, which then causes toxicity in fishes, plus it wastes money to make toilet paper. I asked him then what does he use to wipe himself. He told me he has switched to reusable toilet paper a month ago. He just uses these and throws them in the washing machine. I wanted to vomit. I'm thinking about ending things because I can't deal with this my entire life. Am I wrong? Holy moly, this is next level hippie stuff. I mean, reusable toilet paper? My God. Let's go to the comments. 6 months? I wouldn't even last 6 weeks. Nah, hygiene is a deal breaker for me. Girl, what were you thinking? My mister doesn't shave down there either. Pubic hair is not inherently filthy, and soap is a thing that exists, but a funky smell? No, 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 no. Soap. Soap has saved millions of lives. Soap is not a chemical that will destroy the environment. It's soap and you use it to clean yourself and other stuff. Vinegar and lemon thing is normal. I grew up volunteering at a centre that was kinda like a zoo for amphibians and reptiles, and we used vinegar to clean the glass because it was safer for some of the animals, and also because gross kids licked the glass and for some reason we didn't want to fix the bloodline, but yeah, I'd simply cease to exist over the crap rags. People asked why she's still with him and how did she manage, and she replied, "In my defence, he was good at giving oral. He was more of a giver and never expected me to give him a BJ. I hardly ever did because of the smell. I thought I could handle this. I always wondered why he smells like lemons. I just realised he probably makes his own deodorant with water and lemon juice, but in my defence, he is really, really sweet. He would always feed me with his hands and give me foot massages. Our sex life was amazing, but none of that is worth this crap." Okay, now for an update. Hi, I just wanted you guys to know I broke up with Mr. Reusable Toilet Paper. I know a lot of you have advised me to talk it through. I realised the issue is not just toilet paper, it's everything. I'm a bit of an uptight person, but he's not. We're two different people. Every time I'm with him, I always have to eat vegan food and fear that I'll offend him. I love meat, sorry vegans, but that's just my lifestyle. So I broke it off with him. He was sad. He cried and told me he'll never forget me, and I was the one and only person who had spiritual purity in me. I don't know what that means, but it is over. I wish it was over then and there until yesterday, when I visited my friend Gabby's house. When she saw me at the door, she looked like a deer in the headlights. She's also a bit of a hippie, but nothing like my ex. I noticed there was a strange lemony smell along with weed. I saw my ex was high on her couch. He waved hi to me. My friend told me she found him being sad in our usual hangout spot. He was singing a sad song. They're sleeping together. Furthermore, they're sleeping because he needs healing, apparently. He was very emotional and depressed that he slept with my friend to cleanse my memories. I'm done. I'm not mad, but I don't trust Gabby anymore. She and Mr. Reusable Toilet Paper can live happily ever after with their stinky unvaccinated babies for all I care. But I'm questioning my friendship with Gabby now. I am fine. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I can go back to eating steaks and chicken without worrying. Jesus Christ, what a mess. I don't even want to think too hard about the smells and stuff. Sorry if anyone's eating. But yeah, I think I'm going to end it there. Give me your thoughts about this one in the comments. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.